we can have the roll call.
Mr. Levine.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Schlechter.
Here.
Mr. Lamana.
Here.
Mr. Mercer.
Here.
All right. Everybody had a chance to review the minutes from last month. We have a motion to...
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Second.
Lynn?
Okay. Mr. Levine.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Schlechter.
Yes.
Mr. Lamana.
Abstain.
Mr. Mercer.
Yes.
All right, on the agenda, we have the conditional use for a daycare facility was stricken from the agenda. Just want to note that for the record. What we'll do here is, if there are any persons here that are going to go on public record today, we would ask you to stand and use your right hand so we can swear you in. We'll do that now. Do you swear that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth to the best of your knowledge? Okay, thank you. Before we go to the next agenda item, I will mention that we do have a court reporter in here, so this is a public meeting. It's being live streamed right now and recorded. All testimony will be at the microphone at the rightful time. So we do want to keep an orderly meeting, and we want to make sure that the court reporter has the opportunity to record all of the minutes of the meeting. With that said, Derek, we'll go ahead and I'll go through the conditional use for a special residence with a C1 district for the properties located at 4838 Whiteford Rd and 5057 Summerfield Rd, parcel numbers 78-51204 and 78-51197. This is the Savigny Township Zoning Resolution, Section 1302. If you could go ahead and read the report for that, Joe?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Subject property consists of two parcels located on the southeast corner of Whiteford and Summerfield Roads. The northern property at 5057 Summerfield Road is a vacant corner lot. The southern property at 4838 Whiteford Road is a legal non-conforming lot with a 1,186 square foot single-family dwelling constructed in 1922. Both parcels are currently zoned A4 rural residential and have a combined area of just under 0.5 acres. Residential uses abut the property to the east, south, and west. A multi-tenant commercial office building abuts the property to the north. The parcels to the immediate south, while currently used as single-family dwelling, are part of a proposed residential care facility that would retain the same zoning classification, but with a conditional use. The applicant is requesting a conditional use for a special residence in a C1 neighborhood commercial district. A request for a change in zoning from A4 to C1 is currently in process. This conditional use, if approved, will be contingent upon approval of that zone change. It is the intent of the applicant to demolish the existing dwelling and detached garage on the site and to construct a new 50-foot by 35-foot two-story mixed-use dwelling. The applicant plans to reside on the second floor while operating a seasonal ice cream business on the first floor. Restaurant and retail are permitted uses in C1. Special residence is a conditional use and is defined in the Savigny Township Zoning Resolution as a dwelling unit on the same parcel of land as a commercial business, which requires a conditional use approval from the BZA. The existing dwelling does not meet the current 75-foot setback requirement from centerline of Whiteford Road. The submitted site plan indicates the new building will meet that setback and all other setback requirements as dictated by sections 1303 and 1305 of the zoning resolution. Ingress/egress to the site will be via one 24-foot wide access drive on Summerfield Road. The site plan indicates 14 parking spaces will be provided. Based upon the parking requirements of 2 spaces per dwelling and 1 space per 75 square feet of restaurant, The proposed number of parking spaces meets those requirements. Section 2903 of the zoning resolution requires that all drives and parking areas shall be paved with asphalt or concrete, and that all parking spaces be clearly marked. Curb stops are recommended for all parking spaces adjacent to landscape areas. Any exterior lighting on the property shall be directed downward and not onto adjoining properties. Per Resolution 16096, passed by the Sylvania Township Board of Trustees, new developments and redevelopments of properties within the township shall be required to have pedestrian access on all sides of the property that adjoin a highway, street, or roadway. Public sidewalks shall be installed and maintained along the property's frontages on Whiteford and Summerfield Roads. Section 3002 of the zoning resolution requires that both landscape and solid privacy fencing shall be installed along any abutting residentially zoned district to provide year-round visual screening for the purpose of effectively shielding the commercial use from residentially zoned properties. An 8-foot-high solid privacy fence or 6-foot-high solid privacy fence atop a 2-foot-high earthen mound shall be installed along the residentially zoned boundaries. 4-foot-tall at planting evergreen trees are also to be installed in the landscape areas abutting residential. The Board of Zoning Appeals may impose any other landscape and screening conditions it deems appropriate. Upon approval of the conditional use and zone change requests, the applicant shall submit a revised site plan indicating the paving, sidewalks, landscaping, and screening. Additionally, the two parcels should be combined into one parcel. Lastly, Section 2509 of the zoning resolution states, conditional use permit shall be deemed to authorize only one particular conditional use, and said permit shall automatically expire if such conditionally permitted use has not been instituted or utilized within 2 years of the date on which the permit was issued, or for any reason such use shall cease for more than 2 years. Applicants may submit to the Board of Zoning Appeals a request for an extension every 2 years, commencing 2 years after the date the initial permit was issued. Zoning permits will be required for all new construction, fencing, and signage on the site. Staff recommends approval with conditions of the conditional use request for a special residence within a C1 neighborhood commercial district for the property located at 4838 Whiteford Rd and 5057 Summerfield Rd for the following 3 reasons. 1, the requested conditional use would complement the image of a neighborhood commercial use. 2, the construction of a residential dwelling as opposed to a commercial building would be consistent with the residential character of the abutting properties. And 3, the residential use of the property is consistent with surrounding residential uses. Staff further recommends that the following 8 conditions be placed upon the approval of the requested conditional use for a special residence within a C1 neighborhood commercial district. 1, this conditional use shall be granted on condition that the corresponding zone change request to C1 neighborhood commercial is approved by the Sylvania Township Board of Trustees. 2, the commercial use of the building shall be limited to the first floor of the principal building. The second floor shall be used only for residential purposes. 3, public sidewalks shall be installed and maintained along the frontages of Whiteford and Summerfield Roads. 4, an 8-foot privacy fence or 6-foot privacy fence on a 2-foot earthen mound shall be located along the abutting residential uses to the east and south as a buffer from the commercial use of the subject parcel. 5, 4-foot-tall planting evergreen trees shall be installed in the landscape areas abutting residential. The Board of Zoning Appeals may impose any other landscape and screening conditions it deems appropriate. 6, any exterior lighting on the property shall be directed downward and not onto adjoining properties. 7, a revised site plan shall be submitted indicating the parking, paving, sidewalks, landscaping, and screening requirements will be met. 8, the 2 parcels shall be combined into one parcel. Staff further recommends approval of a conditional use for a special residence building for the property at 4838 Whiteford Road and 5057 Summerfield Road, subject to the 27 conditions as written in the Lucas County Plan Commission of January 22nd, 2020.
How many did you say? As I've 33.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have 33 on mine.
No, I'm sure. I'm
I thought it was 7.
33 is the next case.
Oh, I'm not wrong. Gotcha.
Working at it.
Daryl,
Yep.
are there any, is there any duplication with
8 and 27.
the 8 things that you suggested here with the 27 from the Lucas County Planning Commission? Are they sort of all separate and distinct?
Well, there's some duplication.
Okay.
The Lucas County Planning Commission staff recommendations are strictly that, recommendations.
Okay.
The zoning staff recommendations are more requested conditions. And all of these are subject to the BZA discretion. You can approve it with all these conditions, or only some of them, or none of them, or add new ones, or whatever.
What's the parking is that still, even though it's a C1 residential, is the parking still per square feet? What's the parking spaces per square feet?
It was,
I guess the better
one
question
space per 75 square feet of restaurant, plus the 2 spaces per the dwelling.
So we are accommodated at that point.
Right.
Right. Any other questions for Daryl?
Daryl, you may have said this and I missed it, I apologize, but is there like going to be a garage for the person that lives there anywhere? I mean, we don't see necessarily just the image that they provided here. Would there be like a driveway entrance for?
A separate
Yeah.
driveway? No,
Okay.
she's only going to have the one entrance off of Summerfield. And the applicant is here this evening as well.
Any other questions? Would the applicant like to make a statement? If you could, just please sign in and state your name and your address for the record.
Hi, thank you for allowing me the time to speak today regarding my thoughts on what I think would be a great addition to the neighborhood. Obviously, I don't want to conflict with the current residents that are there. I wanted to myself become a resident there, but to permit me the ability to run a business from the ground floor, hence the rezoning request, because the current zoning would not permit me to do that. The building, as reflected in the presentation, although this particular one shows a garage, that was in the original plan. We've made some revisions to that, and obviously the final drawings would be submitted for approval. But the style is in keeping with a nice feel with the current neighborhood. And I think in going through the plan, I made sure that I met the parking requirements, the fire department, recommendations for the access, and I really hope that you will give your approval for this. Thank you.
Great. If you can also, not to be a stickler for the audio record, could you state your name and address for the record?
Yes, my name is Nicola Mikata, and my address is 5263 Cambrian Road, Toledo.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
Have you had a chance to review the conditions that were recommended at the Planning Commission level?
I'm going to run through those with the people that I'm working on the planning, so
Okay.
we'll take a look at that.
So on access, so there will not be any access on Whiteford Road, correct?
I was told that that would not be the recommendation from Lucas County Commission, that their preference would be to not interfere with any traffic flow on Whiteford Road, and that their recommendation was that I move the entrance to Summerfield. And so we redrew the plans there.
So then what are your personal plans to park your vehicles on site.
So my vehicle, right now, my vehicle would go to the north and be parked there. I mean, as far as the final drawings for the building, it may be that there'll be the garage that will actually be within the structure, and I just pull inside there. But we have to make sure that the final drawings don't affect the amount of parking spaces that are there. So that's going to be key in the final design. But ultimately, obviously, I need somewhere to park and would prefer a garage. But we've got to be careful with the square footage to allow adequate parking.
Can you pull up a site plan on slide 20, please? So you would come Summerfield through the parking lot, through this little access somewhere, either parking garage here or...
Right, it would be to that side. So I would access straight from Summerfield and pull into the bottom part of the building or the parking space toward that. If it means an additional parking space just for my vehicle, then I would do that. But again, we'd have to take a look and make sure that it would not interfere with the square footage of the building and the parking that we would need to abide by. I mean, the idea of this is that it's not like your Dairy Queen when you roll down Monroe Street and you go in and you get your ice cream. It's more of an outdoor garden area that you can sit, whether it be in the day or the evening. It's more of a welcome to the backyard, just enjoy. It will have a residential feel, but there will be a business that would operate there.
Thank you.
When would you operate the business? I think you mentioned, Darrell mentioned seasonal. Have you put any thought into?
Yeah, so pretty much it would open up in April and probably shut down sometime in October.
Do you know how many customers you would service per hour roughly peak season? Did you give any thought to that at all, or?
It depends whether they like the store and how good the ice cream is, I guess. I couldn't honestly say per hour. I feel that the parking is adequate. And with it being a neighborhood business, I'm hoping that there'll be some foot traffic there rather than everybody trying to park their vehicles, but...
Any other questions? Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other person that would like to speak on behalf or about this property? Good.
I just have a question about the hours of operation for the business.
Yeah, you'll have to, I'm sorry, we have to follow rules here, but can you state your name and...
Sorry, Rita Smithers, 4420 Ancona Drive, Toledo.
Okay. Yeah,
I just wonder what hours of operation the restaurant would be open.
I'm sorry, if you can, you'll have to step up to the microphone. It's...
So generally, we'd open around 10 a.m. in the morning and close by 9 p.m. at night.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for giving us all an opportunity to speak. I'm reserving most of my comments for the next project that will be considered, but I did want to talk about... Carol Contrada, I apologize. Carol Contrada, 5035 Alongside Drive, Toledo 43623. The Lucas County Plan Commission heard an application for these two parcels 2 weeks ago, and the recommendation of the Lucas County Plan Commission was a recommendation for disapproval. and that was supported, the disapproval was supported by the Plan Commission Board, and I think some of the comments which also I had planned to refer to in the next case you're considering are worth putting on the record here. The recommendation, the establishment of commercial zoning, this is in reference to changing the designation from A4 to C1, which is under consideration, I'm assuming, by the Zoning Commission next. The establishment of commercial zoning is precedent-setting and could result in commercial creep along traditionally residential streets such as Summerfield Drive and Whiteford Rd. Once a zoning change has been approved, the range of uses allowed in the district is then open to as-of-right permitting without public input. Uses permitted in the C1 neighborhood district include, but are not limited to, and it goes on to list what is permitted. These uses could have detrimental impacts on neighboring residential properties. Furthermore, the 2018 Sylvania Township Land Use Plan recommends this area for low to medium density residential. The intent of low to medium density residential uses with densities typically range from 1 to 6 units per acre. So that is one of their comments. They also said, again, commercial zoning is precedent-setting and could result in commercial zoning and uses to creep along traditionally residential streets such as Summerfield Drive and Whiteford Rd, and they would be inconsistent with the 2018 Sylvania Township Land Use Plan. So I just wanted to get that on the record, and I'll reserve the rest of my comments for the next case. Thank you.
Is there any questions? Is there any other person that would like to speak on this matter? Good. If you could.
My name is Jerry Komanek. I live at 5125 Laredo. I have just one quick comment, and that is, if any of you have ever tried to turn left off of Summerfield onto Whiteford Road, you know, it's kind of a bear right now. And if you add more traffic to that, it's just going to be worse. So that's basically what I have to say right now.
We got a long meeting. I appreciate the applause, but let's just kind of keep this at a good tone here. All right, is there anybody else that would like to speak on the matter?
Hi, my name is Ruth Pachetti. I live at 5029 Summerfield Road. I didn't come prepared to speak today, but after hearing about the ice cream shop, I feel like I need to. The traffic. I know she's hoping for like a lot of foot traffic and stuff like that. That is super dangerous. I don't walk my dog in that direction because of the people coming down our road is a cut through, Summerfield Road is. People going down there 60 miles an hour some days it's 50 miles an hour. It is super dangerous. There's no sidewalks, and I know that sidewalks would need to be created, but even with a sidewalk to walk around the block, past the property on Whiteford to come around, just a 1 mile block is super dangerous. I feel like that would be, I don't know, it's just terrible. And not only that, but then with the stress of the new facility that will be opened up behind my house with the care facility, I don't know that that's something that we really need. And I'm just really concerned about that. It's a lot of traffic, especially if you got kids going for ice cream and stuff. I mean, it's dangerous, super dangerous. That's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to see it put on there. So, thanks. Oh, and another thing I'd like to say too is I've lived there 25 years, and it's crazy. Thank you.
Okay.
My name is Dave Rochon. I live at 5114 Salmon Creek. That's right across from this proposed center. My side lot runs along Whiteford. I've been there 45 years. And I can't believe that you would even consider this. You're supposed to be protecting us. You're supposed to do what's right for our community. How can you put more traffic on that road? There's no way that children can walk to Whiteford safely anymore. And there's no way to get out on the road sometimes at all. It's impossible to get out my driveway and to get out on the road. Some days you just wait and wait and wait. We don't need an ice cream parlor. We don't need a senior citizen place either. And you're going to make my house uninhabitable. It's going to be impossible to live there. How could you possibly do that? How could you possibly? It violates all common sense. You haven't lived until you mow your side lawn and somebody comes through your privacy gate and damn near kills you. That traffic is just awful. Nobody goes 35 miles an hour. I've been there 45 years. I'm telling you, I can't believe that the police aren't out there giving tickets. It wouldn't happen in Iowa Hills. It's not safe. And if you choose to do this, if you choose to approve this, then you shouldn't have your jobs, and you shouldn't be representing this community. It's absolutely not. Everybody in your name is so comfortable, I actually get out here, so we'll make sure you're gone.
All right, thank you. Anybody, anything else?
Mr. Chairman, before we keep going, I just want to, if we could maybe make a request that I see some folks in the back that might need seats and have been standing quite a while. So I know that there's some room out there, if you guys mind making some room for your fellow neighbors who are standing and will be standing for a while longer. If there's room, please make some space. Sorry, thanks, Mr. Chairman.
I'm Bob Osborne. I live at 5142 Brain Bridge. The school is a very dangerous situation when they let out, and the township should have a policeman there. I've seen traffic back up to Sylvania Avenue, and I've seen cars go around the bike lane because the traffic wants to go into school. Some of that property could be well used to have an entrance for the school buses to come in and the people who are picking up their children. And not only that, it does, if you're trying to get out of, when the school is there, letting out, forget it. And it's a dangerous situation for the fire department, because all that traffic's there, there's no place to go for them to get down there. And between Talmadge and Alexis, every time they put a building up like Medicare Wellness Center, you get more traffic. Everybody from Central will go to Corey, they go to Whiteford. And they get off at Corey, or they get on at Corey from the expressway. And it's like Talmadge Road when they built Franklin Park. It's a single lane. And maybe they ought to think about lowering the speed limit to 25, so some of us could get out and it'd be safer. But they should have a township policeman when school lets out. It's a dangerous situation. You got parents picking up kids, and you got kids walking home. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? While we wait for the second, again, there are plenty of seats out here if you don't want to stand, so feel free to have a seat.
Hi, Suzanne Kiefer, 5047 Summerfield Road. Right next to this property is where I am, and to back out of the driveway, even now, it's hard to get out because you have traffic coming from Whiteford or from Mill Street. They come fast down there. You can hardly get out, and with this coming onto Summerfield Road would be terrible. I mean, they come in that corner, we've seen accidents right there already. It's just bad. And we just don't really want to see any commercial type stuff in a residential area. We have commercial buildings all the way up and down the Mill Street right now that are empty. And even if it's an ice cream store, you got one close enough by that we don't need this type of ice cream store here. With the kids walking to school down the street and back and forth, it just makes it worse for the kids too. Maybe getting hit or something like that. I feel sorry for the kids, for the people that live on that street and all around off of Whiteford. It's terrible right now. To add something else with what's going to go behind, it's bad. So I just wanted to say that, so highly against it, and you need to consider, Whiteford Road and Summerfield, how it is right now, the traffic and the speed limit. It doesn't get used like it should. It gets beyond the speed limit. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thanks. Just for clarification, do you live behind on Summerfield?
Next door to where it would be.
Like on Summerfield?
Mr. Chairman, I see the chief is here, and there was a comment around the inability for emergency services to get to these locations. I was wondering if he might be able to speak to that.
Chief Ryan, what do you think?
Not to put you on the spot, Chief.
He literally put you on the spot.
Literally.
Thanks, I thought about doing the same thing as well, so at least you're a bad guy.
Okay, what's the question?
Chief,
Sorry.
Yeah, you might have to swear me in because I didn't raise my hand over there because I was speaking this evening.
You asking if you swear me? Okay. Yes, if you can raise your right hand, please. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, sir, I do.
So, Chief, one of the previous gentlemen raised a concern that it would be, if this facility went through, that it would present additional challenges for emergency services down Summerfield and Whiteford in the event of emergency. Just wanted to see if you would be able to comment.
Well, in all honesty, I think we're having trouble in every street in Sylvania at this time. Our trucks are bigger, and as we all know, there's a lot more people on the streets. Whiteford Road, with our station at Monroe and Whiteford, it's actually at Haddon and Whiteford. It would cause a little bit of trouble trying to get through there. There's no giving up on that. I mean, it's, the traffic in Sylvania is getting worse every day, so will we still be able to get through there? Absolutely, but it will certainly slow us down a little.
Are there any, it's a small piece of property, but is there any issue with only having an entrance on Summerfield, or?
No.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Right. Any others that'd like to speak on this matter?
My name is Tori, and at 4747 Turnbridge Road.
Cool. Were you sworn in earlier?
No, I was not.
If you could raise your hand, please. Yes. Do you swear that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
And you'll have to state your name and address for the record and sign in.
Yep. Tori, 4747 Turnbridge Road. I would just like to follow up on the comments made by Carol Contrada related to the 2018 Sylvania Township Land Use Plan. It was stated in there that there was some consideration given to designating some areas of the Whiteford Quarry area as commercial, but it was decided not to do that given the existing nature of the neighborhood. In addition, some of the areas of concern listed was the commercial pressure from Monroe Street into the residential neighborhoods. The future land use plan has already given into that a little bit, designating the area north of Summerfield Road for commercial in the future. And just hate to see that creep further south across Summerfield Road. I'd like to preserve the neighborhood as it is. Thank you.
Great. Would any others like to speak on the matter? Okay, nope, go ahead. Do you need swearing as well? If you can raise your right hand, please. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Okay. You can state your name for the record and sign in as well.
Dawn Robinson,
And your address as well.
5046 Cartagena Drive.
Thank you.
I just want to speak on behalf of the children who go to Whiteford Elementary, because I have two children that go there, and along Whiteford Road, there's already, and the police can attest to this, there's already a lot of car accidents there, especially at Corey in Whiteford, and along Whiteford, right there, just along Whiteford Road, there's accidents constantly. I just drove past one just off of Talmadge and Sylvania coming here. But along Whiteford Road and Corey, there's constant accidents there. Whiteford Elementary is not gated, so that's a safety risk for the children. If that center gets built there, specifically trying to cross from walking from Cartagena Drive across Whiteford Road, we can't get across that street as it is, and kids certainly can't get across there. There's no sidewalk, so there's no way for children or any sort of pedestrian to be able to walk along the sidewalk, so it's a safety risk. Again, I come from the safety risk of the children and the staff at the school already. Dropping off and picking up is already crowded. We're already backed up along Whiteford Road, just trying to turn into the small parking lot that's already afforded for Whiteford Elementary. So it's definitely a safety risk because of the venue. The school is not gated in, so we don't know what kind of people are going to be frequenting the area. So that's my concern.
So you're saying it's a safety risk with them walking on the sidewalk, correct?
It's a safety risk with them. Right, that's what I said, there is no sidewalk.
Okay.
So there is a safety risk already presented because there is no sidewalk. So it increases the safety risk if there's more people walking through there and there is no way for pedestrians to get through besides walking on the street. So when picking up children from the school, come there at about 2:45, between 2:45 and about 3:10. The street is backed up, as well as at about 7:50 in the morning till about 8:10 in the morning. The street is backed up. So it's a traffic concern. There's already accidents. Anybody along here can tell you that there's already a lot of accidents right there along Whiteford Road, so this does not help anything. And then safety risk, because although it's a proposed senior center, and we assume that seniors are innocent and things like that, we don't know what type of people with criminal records or what are going to be frequenting that area, and the school is...
You'll have to speak about that separately.
Okay.
The next matter.
Yeah, so this is for the ice cream location we're talking about.
So, actually, I have a quick question for you, Darrell. This property has sidewalks, doesn't it?
It's one of the conditions.
It's one of the conditions.
That's a condition.
I mean, so it will have sidewalks.
On both frontages.
Okay. Great. Any others like to speak on this matter? Yes, please.
So as it seems like the signing is taking in more time than the applause, could we sign somewhere else and
Good evening, thank you for your time. My name is Terrell Dunlap, I live at 4924 Tunbridge Road. I too am concerned about the traffic from the safety issue in the school, but more than that, my concern, and I don't even have children, is that ice cream stores are great places for kids to be. And I don't want to have something in the neighborhood that draws a pedophile that sits there and waits, and not to say that it would happen, and not to say that your building isn't beautiful and it would fit in, but I don't want to take the risk of something happening to our children. Thank you.
Right. Anyone else? Okay, you guys, we're going to do a deliberative session. Yeah, we're going to take a brief break here for our deliberative session. We'll be right back. You ready to go? This good? All right, we're back at 5:56 p.m. If I could ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I have a motion to recess the conditional use for special residence within a C1 district for the properties located at 4838 Whiteford Rd and 5057 Summerfield Road, parcel numbers 78-51204 and 78-51197 till our March 9th, 2020 meeting.
I'll second that. All right,
The motion's second, we have to vote on it.
No, we have this option for discussion. John, do we?
Second, then discussion.
Yeah, okay. So just to clarify, there's a lot of confusion with this. There's a trustee meeting that needs to happen, there's a Sylvania Township zoning that needs to happen, and we're making basically a recommendation on something when something could come out in one of those meetings that would change our decision. So the reason we moved it to March 9th is both of those meetings will already have happened, and then we can make a better decision there. So just a point of clarity, the request was to, if it is zone C1, to allow her to live there in residential. So that's really all we were voting on tonight. So we'd rather, anyhow, that's the point of the motion. Right?
Mr. Schlechter?
Yes.
Mr. Levine?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Milano?
Yes.
Mr. Mercer?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
All right. Thank you. All right, the next matter is the conditional use for a residential care facility within an A4 district for the properties located at 4828 and 4752 Whiteford Road, parcel numbers 78-17721 and 78-17744, Sylvania Township zoning resolution section 607. Joe, if we can have the second part.
Subject property consists of two parcels fronting onto Whiteford Road, 4828 and 4752 Whiteford, as well as an additional landlocked portion of another parcel at 4733 Vineyard Road, south of the other two. The total area of the combined parcels is just over 10 acres. The entirety is zoned A4 rural residential. The two parcels fronting onto Whiteford are legal non-conforming lots with an existing single-family dwelling on each lot, constructed prior to the enactment of zoning in Sylvania Township. Residential uses abut the property to the east, north, west, and southwest, Public elementary school abuts the property to the south. The applicant is requesting a conditional use for a residential care facility in an A4 district. The intent of the applicant is to construct a two-story residential care facility comprising an 18-unit memory care building located in the front of the facility closest to Whiteford, a 41-unit assisted living building, and 94-unit congregate care building, both in the center of the facility, and 8 independent living villas to be located at the rear of the property. An additional building utilized for dining and recreational activities will be located approximately in the center of the project. With the exception of the villas, all the buildings will be connected via an enclosed corridor. Ingress/egress to the site will be via 2 access drives. One will be on Whiteford Road directly opposite Saddle Creek Road, and another on Summerfield Road, the location yet to be determined. In order to mitigate potential traffic concerns on Whiteford, the applicant will be responsible for the installation of left turn lanes for both northbound and southbound traffic near the entrance to the facility. Circulation through the property will be via a loop drive. Perpendicular parking will be located along the loop drive and primarily along the interior of the drive. A large visitor parking area will be located on the north side of the buildings. The independent living villas will have their own drives and attached garages. The villas meet the required 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit. Pursuant to Section 2914 of the zoning resolution, the rest of the facility requires 1 parking space per 4 beds. This equates to 39 required spaces for the proposed facility. The submitted site plans and letter of intent indicate over 100 spaces, 46 of which are land banked for future need if necessary. Curb stops are highly encouraged for all parking spaces adjacent to landscape areas. Any parking lot or exterior lighting on the property shall be directed downward and not to adjoining properties. Per Resolution 16096 passed by the Savannah Township Board of Trustees, new developments and redevelopments of properties within the township shall be required to have pedestrian access on all sides of the property that adjoin a highway, street, or roadway. Public sidewalks shall be installed and maintained along the property's frontages on Whiteford and Summerfield roads. Article 30 of the zoning resolution does not dictate any landscape or screening requirements for residential use abutting another residential use. However, the applicant has indicated the intent to retain as many of the existing trees on the heavily wooded lot as possible, particularly around the perimeter of the site. Additional landscaping will be installed around the perimeter of the buildings and within the parking areas. Given the close proximity of the dwelling at 4754 Whiteford Road to its northern property boundary, the applicant has agreed to erect an 8-foot tall fence along their southern boundary abutting that dwelling's property. The proposed project meets all setbacks and other development standards of the zoning resolution. Zoning permits will be required for all new construction, fencing, and signage on the site. Lastly, Section 2509 of the zoning resolution states, conditional use permits shall be deemed to authorize only one particular conditional use, and said permit shall automatically expire if such conditional permitted use has not been instituted or utilized within 2 years of the date of which permit was issued, or if for any reason such use shall cease for more than 2 years. Applicants may submit to the Board of Zoning Appeals a request for an extension every 2 years commencing 2 years after the date of the initial permit was issued. Staff recommends approval with conditions of the conditional use request for a residential care facility within an A4 rural residential district for the property located at 4828 and 4752 Whiteford Road and 4733 Vineyard Road, Park, for the following 5 reasons. The request is consistent and meets the requirements of the Savannah Township zoning resolution. 2, the request presents a suitable transition between the single-family dwellings in the area and the commercial enterprises to the north and institutional use to the south. 3, the residential use of the property is consistent with surrounding residential uses. 4, the request should not be significantly detrimental to nearby properties. And 5, the request will be served adequately by public facilities and services. Staff further recommends that the following 4 conditions be placed upon the approval of the requested conditional use for a residential care facility within an A4 rural residential district for the property located at 4828 and 4752 Whiteford Road, and 4733 Vineyard Road, Park. 1, public sidewalks shall be installed and maintained along the frontages of Whiteford and Summerfield Roads. 2, an 8-foot privacy fence shall be located along the abutting residential use to the south as a buffer from the activities of the residential care facility. 3, any exterior lighting on the property shall be directed downward and not onto adjoining properties. And 4, the 3 parcels shall be combined into 1 parcel. Staff further recommends approval of the conditional use for a residential care facility, subject to the 33 conditions listed in the Lucas County Plan Commission staff report of January 22nd, 2020. And the applicant is here this evening, as well as representatives from Sylvania Township Fire and Lucas County Engineers Office.
Great, thanks, Daryl. Any questions for Daryl? Would the applicant like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is John McHugh. I'm the lawyer representing the applicant. I live at 6751 Convent Boulevard. My law office is at 5580 Monroe Street, both in Sylvania. And in the course of going to and from the office, working, reporting to court, eating, I drive up and down Whiteford Road approximately 8 to 10 times every day. Sometimes I take a little detour just to make sure that my mind hasn't lost itself completely. I'm here to speak on behalf of this application tonight, and since this is not a rezoning, but is an adjudicatory hearing under Ohio law, I would ask a little bit of your leeway and permission so that my client has the opportunity to make the record that he feels is necessary to stand in support of both the Toledo-Lucas County Plan Commission report as well as Mr. Grouse's report from the Sylvania Township Zoning Office. So I would appreciate your indulgence, if you will. I'll move quickly and try not to be boring.
Yep, we're here for facts.
Thank you very much. As Mr. Grouse indicated, the proposal is to provide appropriate and necessary housing for the elderly. We've heard discussions over time about what this big cohort of aged individuals who are the boomers are. And I understand now in social media it's okay to say, okay boomer, as a dismissive notion, but we have an entire cohort of people that we want to provide housing for so that they can live out the rest of their lives with dignity. We're not pedophiles. We're not criminals. We don't expect to have those sorts of individuals in our care. We generally expect that 75% of the occupants who will be there will be from Sylvania. And our target market is the Sylvania area, and perhaps within 5 miles of that, a radial 5-mile distance, that's where we really expect to find our clients. Tonight I am assisted by Tom Finley, who is the owner of Omni Properties, George Orvetz, who's the consulting engineer, and Andrew Pearson, who is also here on behalf of TMS engineers who conducted a traffic study. So if members of the group have any questions at all, please feel free to speak out in each one of these based upon their factual knowledge of what took place rather than their opinions. Will tell you exactly what occurred here. As you know, this is not a rezoning application. This is an application for a conditional use permit, which has 5 specific requirements under your township zoning resolution. And those 5 specific permits have each been met, as Mr. Grouse has indicated in his comments. The matter to you tonight is to listen to evaluate, and to rely upon the technical expertise of those people who have considered the proposal who have met, who bring their education, their sophistication, their training to the project. When we originally approached this property, it was in June of 2018. We're now here in February of 2020 because we thought it was very important to speak with Mr. Grouse, to speak with the Plan Commission, and even to speak with as many of these neighbors as we could. Because as a citizen of Sylvania, I know these people have good intentions and are good-hearted, and we have a difference of opinion. And all we're trying to do...
Hold on, John.
Sure.
Listen, I've already given some dirty looks already. We're going to be respectful. We're just going to let everybody have the chance to speak, so let's be respectful of one another.
You have the benefit of the Toledo-Lucas County Plan Commission the staff recommendation and the commission itself. We accept all of those conditions. We've discussed it with the staff, we've discussed it with the neighbors. There was originally a concern that at 3 stories this was way too high, so we brought it down to 2 stories. There was a concern to make sure that we had appropriate uses, and so we have the loop drive. There was a concern about interfering with existing residences, and so we have devised a landscaping plan. And as Mr. Grouse told you, under your zoning resolution, there's not even a requirement that we have a landscaping plan, but we want to be a good neighbor. We do want to enhance the quality of life here. There is also no requirement under the Sylvania Township zoning resolution that we do a traffic study. But we wanted to do a traffic study because we understand nobody wants this thing in their backyard. Nobody. Nationally, we've encountered the NIMBY syndrome, and we understand that. But what we are proposing and have proposed through consultations and with engineers and with your staffs is to have a use of this that is a residential use that is limited in its scope, and we believe based upon the traffic studies that we've conducted that it will not adversely impact the traffic, and in fact, the changes that are being made to Whiteford Rd are designed to enhance the flow of traffic as you move back and forth by these turn lanes, left-hand turn lane into both of the properties. Now, we have spoken with and we've heard from the neighbors, and they've generally, even in advance of this presentation, have spoken to us that they say, well, there's a couple of major concerns that we have. We don't want the residential character of the neighborhood destroyed. We don't want any inconvenience to our immediate neighbors, and boy, traffic is traffic is traffic. There are certain things that we know we can do and certain things we can't. We've heard that you cannot, without a great deal of expense, without a substantial expense, we can't widen Whiteford Road. The appropriation that would be involved, and the Lucas County engineers representatives here can talk to that, that cost would be prohibitive. So what we're trying to do is to take a use which we know at some point will be permitted, and to try to take a use which is least obtrusive so that it is in residential character and it's an honorable use. It's designed to help older people. And we need to continue to look for that as that cohort migrates through their age. So we know that it's our obligation to propose a development that is least burdensome. So we've attempted to do that. Now there's been concerns, can you be a good neighbor? Well, we've talked to our neighbors. First of all, we have fencing. We've met with Mr. Schwimmer and Mr. Schwimmer's counsel, and Mr. Schwimmer's property is immediately south of the middle of our property. We've talked about landscaping. We've talked about moving the dumpster so that it's not as close to him. We've talked about making sure that we have a loop around it where we have our service trucks so that the neighbors don't hear that irritable beep, beep, beep at 5 o'clock or 5:45 in the morning. We have met with the schools, and we have said, how can we coordinate our shift changes with your drop-offs and retrievals of the school children? How can we coordinate our delivery schedules to work with you so that we don't exacerbate a bad problem? We're trying to propose a solution, not create further aggravation for the residents. We've spoken with the fire chief. We've reviewed the EMS data reports and incidents. We've engaged qualifying engineering consultants, and we have reviewed this use, and we believe it is an efficient and effective use for the needs that we have. We believe that you will find that with the recommendation of both the Plan Commission staff, Mr. Grouse, the considerations that are set forth in 2503 of your Sylvania Township resolution, that we have met all the requirements of a conditional use permit. Now, with your permission, I'd like to speak to you about what that conditional approval, conditional use permit is. This is not a zoning change. So this is committed to your discretion. Courts who have looked at this and have considered it have said, is there reliable, probative, good evidence upon which to make the decision that you've made? You have a lawyer on your board, you have a lawyer advising you. The whole standard is not what do the people want. The standard is this appropriate under 2503? And I say that to you for this reason. When the zoning resolution was created, there are certain uses that if you make a change, they are subject to referendum. The people vote if they don't like your decision. Here, the legislature, the Ohio State Legislature, here in your Sylvania Township trustees, have conferred full and exclusive discretion on you to exercise your judgment based upon the evidence, not simply the personal opinions, but the evidence that was presented to you. So in this case, we believe that this project and this proposal meets all the criteria, that it is a particularly good proposal given the use of the property, and that it will have a very positive impact for the Sylvania community, particularly in terms of the investment, which is substantial, the jobs that it will create, which are substantial when it's fully operational, and the payroll that will be created, and the tax benefit and the tax basis that that creates accrues generally to the benefit of the schools. So we ask you to endorse our proposal and find in your considered judgment and discretion that this conditional use permit should be granted. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for the applicant?
Any questions for me that I can either attempt to answer or to redirect to those people who are better qualified than I?
How many residents would you say you all have spoken with? Because I heard you mention a few times that you'd spoken to as many as possible. Just wanted to put a number to that.
There were originally 2 meetings, and we sent notices in the meetings to everybody that we had received from the township for the 200 feet. I hate to tell you, it was embarrassing that we did not include the school system. The school system is our immediate neighbor. But we have since met with the school system and addressed with them their concerns, and that's why I say we talked about how do we coordinate most efficiently in terms of the times in the morning and the times in the afternoon, and what can we do to alleviate that stress.
The school system was notified, though, of this hearing tonight, though, correct?
Yes. Did anything come out of that? Do you have any bullet points of anything that came out of that meeting? Was there anything resolved with the schools that you would feel comfortable sharing at this point?
The matters that I talked about, number one, was attempting to coordinate the scheduling for drop-offs and retrieval of the children. Another one was to attempt to coordinate the schedule for shift changes for the personnel at the site and also for suppliers at the site. That was the second one. The third one, which was particularly interesting in light of some of the comments that you heard earlier, is that the school thought it would be much to its advantage if there can be programs where the children at the school interact with some of the adults at the residential facility and vice versa. Many of us remember growing up when we had grandparents in our homes. Now we don't have that anymore. And this is an opportunity, we hope, to have that intergenerational transfer of knowledge and values, and frankly, affection and love.
Are you able to talk on the traffic study at all, or have somebody here?
I'm able to talk on the traffic study, but I also have Andrew Pearson here, who is from the traffic engineering, so either one can do that. I can give you the summary of it and tell you how we conducted the study, the 2 days the study took place, when it was, how they measured the impact, when they measured the impact, how they reached the conclusion that there was not a discernible adverse impact on it.
Okay, so if you can speak on that, actually, you listed about 3 questions I had. So if you could speak about the days that it was conducted and just kind of give us an overview, that would be...
Sure. The traffic studies were conducted on Tuesday, October 8th, and Wednesday, October 9th. The counts were conducted during what we believe to be the maximum use periods of time. 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock in the morning, 11 to 2, and 3 to 6. And
on both days?
Yes, sir. And so again, the report that Mr. Pearson can offer, or his testimony would describe that, but they showed what everybody here has said. You know, you have people using Whiteford to transit north and south. It happens. And so the most congested times that you're going to see are when people are going to work, people are coming home from work. When people are dropping their kids off from school, they're coming home from school. We recognize that. I mean, that's nothing that you can do. But what everybody has seen with that is that traffic, the whole notion of it is, what is the good traffic flow? It doesn't really offend people much if the traffic moves fairly quickly, people are in and out, and it goes back and forth on that. And I can tell you from my own experience, sometimes that is packed, and sometimes the concern is I'm doing 45 in the 35 zone, and I'm likely to be pulled over because you're just moving with the flow of traffic. So the notion is, we realize that we want to keep a good flow, and the best way we figured out how to have a good flow is to make sure that you don't have traffic backed up either way where somebody is trying to make the turn that is going to cause problems. And that's why we have those dedicated turn lanes to do that. And that is the objective. That's why we had the benefit of the consultation with the Lucas County Engineer's Office. That's why we did the traffic study, because we wanted to talk to you about facts as we found them, not perceptions as we hold them. So another comment that was raised is, well, geez, did you do the study on a holiday? No, we did the study when school was in session because, again, we're proud of what we do. We're proud of the care that we give our seniors. We're proud of what we've done in other communities. And the only thing we trade on is our reputation. So it would make absolutely no sense to come in here and say something to you that wasn't based upon fact. And that's why we've done it. So what we've looked at, so that you know where our criteria, ODOT, the Ohio Department of Transportation, has very substantial traffic criteria. And I understand there's a very distinguished employee, former employee from ODOT, who is now working with the Lucas County Engineers Office, who is here, who can speak to those issues. But everything is generally designed to ODOT standards. And in this particular case, ODOT says we wouldn't even require a traffic study because the impact is so small. So we have done this, we've presented the criteria, and we've presented the findings, and that's why we believe very strongly that while there will be some increased use, what we've done is we've made the best of what is a congested situation by the additional lanes. The other thing I wish to make certain to understand is that based upon what we've seen, the traffic used from this congregate care facility, both supplies, vehicles, visitors, residents, is less than what a single-family residential would be. So, all right. As I say, I have a traffic...
Let's calm down, you have your chance to speak.
I have a traffic engineer who is qualified by these studies to report on that. So those are the considerations that we rely upon in suggesting that the use is appropriate. Does that answer your question, Mr. Miller? Okay. Any other questions from the...
Yeah, I have a question about the turn lanes.
I'm sorry?
I have a question about the turn lanes. I too spent a lot of time on that road. Where's the land coming from essentially to have the turn lanes in the middle of the road there?
Because I'm a lawyer and not an engineer, may I ask Mr. Orovitz to address that? Would that... George, would you come forward and... I'd like to give you the best answer I can, but that wouldn't be good enough.
I appreciate it.
Yes, you'll still need to sign it.
My name is George Orovitz. I'm the consulting engineer for the Omni Corporation. In this particular case, the right-of-way that we currently have is adequate to build the left turn lanes, the storage lanes. We will be dedicating, the half right-of-way on our side is 30 feet. We, by a request from the county engineer's office, will be granting a highway and utility easement of an additional 20 feet on our property in order to create the sidewalk, to widen the road, in order to create that middle lane, and also maintain the paved berm, which is what the mail post office uses in order to deliver mail. Within the limits of our property and where the left turns would be provided, there is more than enough right-of-way with our additional dedication to provide that. I think one of the issues that when people are concerned about the driving area on Whiteford Rd, there's things they don't take into consideration when you do a congregate care center like this. In this particular case, we have 46 of our parking spaces will not be built at this time. We have to show that we have room to put them, and we can provide them if they're necessary. But those are land banked, so that if there is a need, we can in fact go back and pave them. The balance of the parking spaces that are required, give you an example, 64 of the residents within this community don't drive. A person who has memory difficulties is not out driving a car. The people that are in assisted living are not out driving a car. It is the people that are in congregate care.
Let's go this route. We're going to make a decision here, all right? And we need to know all of the evidence. If you're talking being disruptive, then it doesn't help. I know it's emotional, but we need to hear everything that's going on here. So if you can just bear with me, when you're speaking, we're going to make sure we do the same as well.
The people in congregate care are the ones that'll drive. And those that drive, even though they may have their car there, often or not will use the available driving service that we have as part of the amenities that are part of this particular project. With respect to the visitors, I have firsthand knowledge of what occurs in these centers because my mother-in-law is in one. She's been in one for 9 years. She doesn't drive. She's in assisted living at the present time. But what in effect happens is my wife visits her every day. When does she go to visit her? She visits her at lunchtime because she's more alert at lunchtime. She is a far better individual to be with and enjoy the day with her for whatever the period of time is. She assists her in eating her lunch. But if you go after 4 o'clock, they have what they call sundowners, which means all they want to do is go home. They don't want to hear anything, they get belligerent, they get upset. So it's far better to have a relaxing visit at those particular periods of times, which in effect we at Omni provide. We provide all the amenities that are on that site plan that you see because it enhances the activities that they can participate in and gives them a far better quality of life. That's what we're all about. We're not doing things simply because we can do them or simply because it's required of us. As John said, the left turn lanes are not required of us. We're doing it for safety reasons. The county engineer's office concurred with that recommendation. In fact, they originally made the recommendation that you ought to consider left turn lanes because it would help the traffic flow even though it's not required. And in effect, we have. This particular project is by far the highest and best use of that land. We look at it from the standpoint that because of the fact that people have to pay to be in a care center like this, that it's not a quality operation, it's a for-profit, it's a commercial development. Farthest thing from the truth. This is in fact subject to so many rules and regulations that the federal government has imposed on us. Yes, we make a profit, but at the same time we are providing a lot more to the people who will be living in there. And we are residential. We have people living in this particular site. We're not selling them units. We're not doing things on a commercial basis. We're providing care under a residential category. The individual that is to the south of us, to give you an example, what detail we've gone into when they came to the very first meeting that we had with the neighbors, and the notifications of the meeting I sent out. I got the list from the planning commission, the list from the township of everybody who was legally had to be notified for this project. And in effect, I did. I sent them all out. Was I remiss in not telling the school? To a certain extent, I believe, yes, I was. But I thought they surely would understand, since the meeting was in their building, if they had any interest, real interest in it, they would have come to the meeting or sent a representative, but they did not. Consequently, since that period of time, Dwayne has in effect met with them, and we've come up with a group of recommendations that they in effect can live with. One of them is, excuse me.
that we will provide an 8 or a 6-foot-high chain link fence along their complete property line because their fence doesn't quite go to the end of the recreational area that they have in the back. And we have agreed that we will not be having our shift changes during the time school opens and the traffic is intense coming to the schools, either with buses or drop-offs.
When will shift changes happen? What times do you have shift changes?
I think we had talked about, pardon? The times that we agreed with the school were between 7:45 a.m. to 9 a.m. and between 2:30 to 4 p.m. So that's...
Mr. Chairman, can I just make a request? Can we get what he's looking at, so we can all see a copy of the agreements that they've made with the recommendations they've accepted from the school?
Sure. Chad, do we have a copy of this in our packet?
That's what I've seen. No, that's why.
I didn't see it here. So, like a point of clarification, so I understand here, were those the shift times or those the times you're not doing shift times?
Those are times we are not doing a shift time. And in addition to that, they have requested that the company they use to take their refuse out, that we use the same company and that they pick up our refuse at the same time they're picking up the school's refuse, so there won't be a double interruption in that particular area from trash being picked up or the refuse being picked up. Our containers are much smaller than the school's containers, but in effect, we have agreed to that because in effect they have requested it, and it makes common sense that it be done at that period of time. They've also asked that when work would continue or begin within the Whiteford Rd right-of-way, that it be done during the summer period when the kids are not in school, so there would not be any interruption. A great deal of the traffic that got backed up when they did the utility improvement on Whiteford Rd was also caused by the construction that was done at Secor and Secor in Monroe. It was at Talmadge and Monroe, and consequently, traffic was using Whiteford Rd, I know I did, to get back home, because the other two intersections were difficult to get through and had long delays. It made sense that we do the construction in the summer period. They asked that we make sure we're going to have a fence around the dog park because pets are allowed in the Omni facility. And we had an exercise area specifically identified for them, and they wanted to be assured that they wouldn't go unattended, and they wanted a fence around that particular area.
Is there a restriction on the size and type of dog? Do you know?
No, it's just the dog. Normally, what the people have is a small dog. We estimated that we would be creating between 60 and 80 jobs in this facility. That's why it was also important that there be a separation between the time the school picks up in the morning and the time the school heads for home, so there wasn't an interaction between these particular two different groups of people. The trash is picked up normally for us. I don't know how many times the school has it done, but for us, if it's once a week, it would be done on a Monday. If it's 2 times a week, it would be done on a Monday and a Thursday. And the school is saying, let's see, 7 a.m. 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. is when their truck comes to pick up the trash at the school. And then we would be cooperative in that fashion as well. Everything that we've done over the period of time points to the fact that we have a real concern about the neighborhood, about the residents within the neighborhood, with the landscaping and all the other particular appointments that we've created. We've met every single requirement from the fire department to all the other particular requests that were made over the way as we had meetings with people and with the officials, both the county officials for utilities and traffic, generation, and engineering design. We are meeting and exceeding all of those particular recommendations and conditions of application in this case. It is by far the best use of this property, and would certainly, this type of facility would not be creating a negative impact, which would be the noise, supposedly fumes, because we don't have trucks in this facility. There are no tractor-trailer rigs coming in here. There are boxcars that deliver, like a Sofos truck would come and deliver food. There's no ramps for a truck to come in like a loading dock. There are a couple of doors that are opened up to the storage area and a freezer locker where the food is immediately loaded and the other particular apparatus that they need. All of these things point to the fact that this is the best use of that property. You already have a commercial influence in that location. You need something like this to make the transition between the commercial on Monroe Street, Summerfield, which is already the south side. The north side is commercial. The south side is already getting pressures and indications of trying to convert some of that property to commercial. And then further from us, we have the institution of the school. And beyond that, you have the flower shop and the nursery department, which is a commercial identity. That character can in fact be neutralized by a facility such as this going in there, which carries a high value and is beneficial not only to this community, but also to the various departments who in effect benefit from the tax and the employment that would be created in this area. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions for the applicant? Good evening. My name's Tom Finley, Omni Senior Living. I'm a partner, Executive Vice President of Omni Senior Living, and I'm the guy who's attempting to put this fantastic development in this wonderful, wonderful community. We have a tagline, and I'll start with that. It's people with a shared excitement together in one place. This community, like all of our Omni Senior Living communities, will be buzzing with life and with new experiences, people with smiles. Yeah, it's a tagline, but when you visit one of our sites, when you visit one of our communities, that's what you have. This changes people's lives. They're not at home by themselves. There's interaction, there's swimming pools, there's fitness centers, there's doctors and physical therapists who are coming to see them. It is an improvement to their lives, concentrated in one area, concentrated specifically to this property. We are improving lives, and we're making communities better. We truly are. We have 5, 6 facilities open right now. We have another 5 or 6 that will open up in the next year, year and a half. We'll have over 1,000 tenants. Residents, they're not tenants, they're residents. This is their home. We know them. We know them well. We know what they want. what those people want and what they expect and what they deserve is the same thing that Sylvania Townships, Ottawa Hills, those people within 3 to 5 miles of this location expect and want to see and have. We're doing it in communities just like Sylvania Township, primarily all over Northeast Ohio. And it really is improving people's lives. There was a lot of question, at least at the county meeting, of, well, why here? Why should it be here? It's because that's where the seniors are. That's where your friends and families who are 75 plus primarily currently live. And if you have parents or grandparents or people of the age who are our types of residents, they want to be in the communities for which they've become familiar. Communities where they go to church, where they shop, where they go to their salon. They want what's familiar and what they love and always have loved about the community. That's this place, because surrounding that area is what we have and who these people are. And we're building a community to serve those folks. So we've done everything. About 2 years ago, we met with Mr. Grouse here, and he said, honor and listen to the community. Both everybody that you can talk to as many people as you can. We did that. We've had two town meetings. I think they were somewhere in the 40 to 60 people at each one of those meetings. Got yelled at a lot, which was okay. You're going to hear they're passionate people, and that's fantastic. We altered our plan significantly in many different areas and ways based on that input and insight, not only from the residents, but also the community at large, the county, the trustees said, do this, don't do that. We honored them, and there are many changes. If you look at that plan behind you on the screen there, I think you'll see very few projects that have, that degree or that level of screening. The need for fences, landscaping, and all those sort of things, big issue to many of the residents. Yes, we have a high sensitivity to where and how we operate this building, shift changes, all that sort of thing. We will and be part, provided we're successful here, to be part of this community, and we want to be part of this community. And so we're going to do everything we possibly can to listen and help and be truly a great place for people to come and live. I know you have letters from mayors where we've got developments. They speak volumes just by them. They have constituents, voters, and all that sort of stuff that they have to listen to and what have you. They listen to them, but what we bring is an improvement to their communities, and they acknowledge those in those letters. I just received an award 10 days ago from the mayor from Stowe, the Stowe Mayor's Award, for the commitment and level for what we brought to his community. He calls it Disneyland, and on the other hand, he says a cruise ship on land, because there's that much fun, there's that much interest happening within this community. And we're so proud of that, so unbelievably proud of that. I used to develop office buildings and retail centers and a few hotels. Not very gratifying, made a few lawyers and accountants and all those people happy because we gave them a place to work. It's pretty close to home, but we never got the degree or level of smiles and happiness and fulfillment that when we do with something like this. And it would be great to be able to do this and bring that to this community as well. So I can answer some other operational type questions or anything along that line, or how we conduct ourselves and all those sort of things.
I don't know the average turnover rate for your tenants, just out of curiosity, I don't know if you have these stats with you, but between memory care assisted living and independent living, do you have any idea on what the turnover rate on when they move in to when they decide to leave?
Depending on each one of the components have a different average. Memory care is shorter, assisted living is shorter, congregate care is longer. The great and wonderful thing is, even within the last 3-4 years, it's getting longer. They're living longer because they're happier and their health is being attended to on a daily, hourly basis. But on an assisted living, since it's in the middle, it's usually 3 to 5 years is what we typically find on that. The other good thing about it is our congregate care is getting younger. They're seeing the benefit of not having to live in that big house, getting upstairs, doing all those sort of things. They're getting younger. The reason for the land bank parking that was described is that we're finding some of the projects we're actually building now, we're beginning to run out of spaces because the congregate people are getting a little bit younger. Even though we have 3 automobiles, we have a full-size van, much like what you find at the airport, that will take people downtown or to the casino or any place that they want to go in a larger group setting and sort of a thing. We have a van, I think its name's going to be either Stella or Rosie. Stella's already been used, but Rosie takes people wherever they want to go. A couple people wherever they want to go. They don't have to drive. We don't want them to drive. And then there's a car for that trip to the doctor or whatever it is that they need that is specific to them without other people. We provide that degree of transportation. Our congregate care, if you know my parents, my dad turned 85, is 85 today. He'll never get rid of his car. He'll be in assisted living before, and he won't park with his car. We have to accommodate cars that will get very little use and what have you, and unfortunately, they stay parked there, and that's just a reality of what our business is, what have you. But the percentage of people aren't driving that much, at least as it relates to the residents. Are there some? Oh, absolutely. There are some that will get out and drive like crazy and are qualified to do so. So that was a very long-winded, and I apologize.
So none of those vehicles you listed will do sort of like routes, right? So they're not constantly in motion, because what you'll see at some facilities is they're going to the mall every 2 hours or the grocery store or whatever, there's a set route and then there's more on-demand type transportation. There's a bulletin board basically, or something where there's planned excursions. There's also, Mrs. Smith needs to be at the doctor at 3 o'clock, but she doesn't need to go there every day at 3 o'clock, kind of a thing. So those cars are coming in based on the specific needs and requirements of the community at large, and then we use the appropriate automobile based on what they're doing and what have you. But believe me, there's a sensitivity to when they leave, when they come. They don't want to be stuck in traffic, school traffic, any more than any of us want to be stuck in school traffic, and they'll account for that, and we'll do it. The nice thing about it is that these folks, their window is, 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. They're eating breakfast. They'll do their things, and they're, pretty much settling down after, 6 o'clock and what have you. So there's not a lot of, getting out unless, there's absolutely necessary to do so.
Great. Any other questions? Thank you. Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on this matter? I'm sure there is. I heard that you guys signed in ahead of time, so that was smart. I appreciate that. But you still have to stay. Oh, yeah, actually, let's do that. Anybody not sworn in? Have you guys sworn in?
Yes, I did.
Okay, if you can state your name for the address.
Okay. My name is Melissa Todd, and I live at 5154 Kearsdale in Corey Meadows. And I want to speak on a couple different issues. I was at the Lucas County Board zoning meeting, and I just want you guys to be aware, which I'm sure you are, that vote did not go unanimously by any means. It was very close. I also want to speak on a few things as far as the meetings with the neighbors. Most of us were very unaware of these. They did the bare minimum, so when I hear in good faith notified the neighbors and local residents, it was within 200 feet of the proposed facility. Only because one of our good neighbors got that notification did the rest of us find out and know anything about this.
As far as the school is concerned, Mr. Duncan, who's the principal at Whiteford Elementary, was at the meeting, at the Lucas County Board meeting. That's the first time he has sat down or talked about this happening. So prior to that meeting, he was not met with. The Sylvania School Board has not, as far as I know, unless it's been since that meeting, they were not met with. The parents of these kids at Whiteford Elementary do not, most of them still don't know that this is happening. You know, I think every parent has the right to know what's going to go in right next to the elementary school where our kids are attending. My child cannot walk across that street right now to school because of the traffic. My son was in a car accident pulling out of Summerfield, heading south on Whiteford, and totaled his vehicle because the traffic is so bad. So yes, I'm going to tell you how bad the traffic is. I know you guys are aware of that. A turn lane, that's not going to help, okay? On those other facilities, we had, and this came up at the Lucas County zoning meeting, their other facilities are built on 4 to 5 lane highways, not a 2-lane road. So, not a 2-lane road. Our kids deserve to be able to ride their bikes in the neighborhood. They came up with some ridiculous number, like 20 would be the increased vehicle, you know, at busy times. If there's 100 parking spaces, and what these fellas said was 60 to 80 jobs that are being created, along with, you know, trucks coming in and out for a cafeteria and full nursing staff, explain to me how 20 cars is even a feasible number. And when I hear that it'll probably be less traffic than a regular residential place, I don't know about you guys, but 100 cars don't come to my house, you know, in 6 months. So, you know, the fact that there's 100 parking spots there with the addition of 46, that's possible. And I know my husband's going to be mad at me for saying this, and I know someone else said, you know, I'm not saying people who are in this facility are pedophiles. That's not what I'm saying. But there's an elementary school. If you're talking about family members of possibly 160 people in and out of that facility, are they all screened? I mean, do they have to sign in and use their license? Like, do we know who's in and out of there? The staff themselves. I'm a nurse. So I don't know about this whole shift change thing, but it doesn't sound like anything I know of. But, you know, the shift change, you know, people coming in, bringing lunch, seeing their family members who work there, seeing their family members who live there. What about all these people? You know, are they pedophiles? We don't know. But my biggest fear is with increased traffic there, look how close we are to the expressway. You know, Perrysburg just had a huge meeting regarding sex trafficking. It is here, whether people want to acknowledge it or not. But you're talking about an elementary school, you know, half a mile from the expressway? Like, what happens when one of our kids do get picked up by somebody who we have no idea who it is? You know, I just think adding that fear to all of our lives and, you know, telling our kids, we already tell them, don't talk to strangers, don't, you know, it's going to be tenfold. And our kids know what's going on, at least in our neighborhood. We've had meetings with our kids, and they have made signs that say, not on Whiteford, not in our neighborhood. That area there is wooded and it's green, and we bought our homes there so we could be in that type of an area. I mean, am I against a facility going in Sylvania Township? No. How about the Andersons building? That's already got parking. It's got plumbing, it's got everything, you know? It's just, it's not the right place, you know? Next to the elementary school, for the safety of our kids, it's not the right place. So, you know, what I'm asking is, thank you for letting us come here tonight and speak and tell you our concerns. I really do appreciate your time. But please think about our kids, because that's the priority. That's the job tonight, is to make sure the kids are safe.
John, stipulate that we have Lucas County Plan Commission report. We've seen it. We have it.
I'm sorry?
Stipulate that we have received Lucas County Planning Commission report that sets forth all of these conditions. She referenced it.
Yep. So we do have the Lucas County Planning Commission report actually in hand today. That has all those conditions, but thank you.
I just want to quickly say, in support of what the lady said before me,
I'm sorry, you have to say.
sorry, in support of what the lady before, Dawn Robinson, and I already wrote my address on here and spoke it earlier. But in support of what the lady said in front of me, I want to mention that in March of 2019, a registered sex offender convicted of kidnapping walked onto Whiteford's property inside the school. It was on ABC. Everybody can Google it on their phone. It's the first news story that comes up. His name was Troy Ames, and he came from Flower Hospital, walked onto the property, got inside the doors, not into the double doors, but he walked inside by the computer area. This puts our children at risk. I come not to you just as a resident, but as a law enforcement officer concerned about this, so I understand and know about this field, okay? The facility places our children at risk not only from residents, but, as the lady said before me, from visitors of residents of the proposed facility. So I want to know, will people convicted of sex offenses be allowed to reside on the property, or has this even been considered? I know nobody wants to talk about sex offenders. It's the embarrassing topic. Nobody wants to talk about their family members in this field and our neighbors. It's a hush-hush topic. We just want to talk about the traffic. The traffic is important as well, but we also have innocent children who are going to school every day who are now being put at risk by a facility who is potentially coming on board with who knows how many people, and somebody mentioned the turnover rate. So that there is my concern, as well as I share the concern with other people, because nobody talks about that. We just talk about how much traffic is going to be along Whiteford Road. What about the safety of your children, your grandchildren, our nieces, our nephews, and the people that already live in the community? Is there going to be any provisions for that? Because we've already had a registered sex offender walk on the Whiteford's property. Somebody mentioned that these are elderly people, they're going to bed at 6 o'clock. But the fact is we don't know who's visiting. We don't know if some of those residents are going to be sex offenders. We don't know. Nobody's asking these kind of questions. How do we get a response to that?
Can we ask John questions here? John, you want to go on the record there? So, I mean, I guess the one question is, I mean, this is still all under ORC, correct? So, I mean, it's just as legal, I mean, there's a school there, so is that not the president of, you know, they can't legally...
All the laws would apply. So
Yeah.
the bylaws we're dealing with how close sex offenders can live to schools. I must confess, I've not put across the facility for old people in terms of having a lot of sex offenders, but if there are sex offenders, there would still be all the laws that would be applicable to them, there would be to anybody. To the person who she spoke about who came onto the property at the school, I don't know who that was, if he lived in, and that school has to have, I can tell you this, that school has to have sex offenders live within the prohibited distance, because then in our office, they would throw them out. So, if that happened, then the laws would be applicable to this facility as well.
Okay, thanks. Just for the record, that was John Burrell, who's our Sabino Township Council.
But I'm not only talking about registered sex offenders, but people fail to realize, I think, that it's not just people who are registered as sex offenders. Those are only the sex offenders that people are aware of if they care to look on the Lucas County Sex Offender Registry list. There are other people who may visit the facility who we may not even know about, is my point. But thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you.
My name is David Rochon, I didn't talk before. Let's cut to the chase. The only reason we're here is because they want to make a lot of money. I hear none of those guys would be here if they weren't getting paid. All right? They're going to make, I have first, just a minute.
I want to lodge an objection to this kind of defamation and kind of decent...
Hey, sit down, let me finish. We listened to you for a long time. Sit down. Sit down. I don't mean it in a bad way. Everybody gets paid.
But I agree that we should defame them. We should,
Listen, let me get
can we just stick to facts? We're here on fact.
All right, it's $8,000 to $10,000 probably a month. My wife and I have first-hand experience with that. I don't think there's going to be a lot of people from Sylvania Township or from my neighborhood that are going to occupy those spaces. Also, when you talk about traffic, it doesn't take a lot of brains to figure out that you can't put this there. One of my neighbors did the research on all of their other facilities. They don't have another facility that busts up to a neighborhood. They have malls and stuff like that, but not to a neighborhood. This butts up right into a community. And you're going to have delivery trucks, you're going to have ambulances, you're going to have fire, rescue squad, people coming in. That's just going to really overload the streets. And it's just, you can't get by that issue. And also, do you people, when you consider this, I'm just asking, do you consider the people that already live here? We have our homes here, we have a financial investment in our property. I've been there 45 years. I raised my kids there. I can't even have my grandkids play in the side yard because Whiteford Rd is too busy. Now, it's not going to get any better when we put this there, okay? It's just not gonna. And I wasn't bad-mouthing you guys. Everybody does things for money, but they're doing it for money. When they say, to me, I've had relatives live in these places, and they're okay. But when you say that all these glorious things about how it makes them feel, if they weren't getting paid, they wouldn't feel that way. It's all about money. And believe me, I think it's all about money for you guys too. It's for the tax base, it's for the community, you think, but it doesn't help the people that live here. And it's not fair. It's just not fair. There are a lot of people that don't know what's going on right now. And they're not going to be happy about this if it goes through. But they don't know about it. Simple as that. I'm done.
Thank you. For the record, the BZA are all residents of Sylvania Township.
Hi, folks. I haven't signed in, so I'll just move this sheet with me as
If
I...
you can still state your name.
Oh, I will, in just a moment. My name is Cheryl L. Paquette. I live at 4924 Turnbridge with the other white-haired woman over there. And I just want to let you know, I'm going to make this very brief because a lot of the things that I had issues with have already been addressed. Mr. McCune, when he spoke, I felt very uncomfortable that he brought his comments where I have all these experts that say this is the best use of the land. In fact, he said the law would allow this regardless of what residents want. Here's my problem with that. We were here first. We are the residents. I'm a registered nurse. I know what it's like when you have extended care facilities, dementia care. People wander away, okay? You get into the street and get hit by a car, fine, Omni will take the lawsuit and deal with it. But my point is, we have a right as residents to have the type of living environment that we chose to move into with the property that we have. And by adding this to our neighborhood, I don't feel that's a real constructive use of the property. If you want to build $500,000 homes back there and get the tax revenue, I'm great with that. But an extended care facility with ambulances, and I'm here to tell you, I've worked for a medical health system for years. You're going to have ambulances, you're going to have trucks for supplies.
I back up to Whiteford Road. I cannot leave my windows open at night because all I hear is traffic noise. So this is really not fair to the residents, and I really would hope that you would take that into consideration. And I really appreciate that we all have different opinions in this room, but I really appreciate that you might take my comments into consideration. Thank you.
Good evening, Carol Contrada, 5035 Valencia. I've already signed in. Do you need me to sign in again?
That's fine.
Okay, well, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you about this issue. I've lived in the Whiteford Rd area, first in Westchester Woods when my parents moved there, and then when my husband and I built our home in Valencia Gardens in 1983. I've lived in the area for 56 years. During those years, I've seen and I've actually welcomed the growth of Sylvania Township, which has evolved from a very, very sleepy, quiet, rural community where in 1964, believe it or not, I could ride my bike from my parents' home in Westchester Woods all the way to Centennial Terrace without encountering a stoplight. It was a different place. And for the most part, the growth has added to the vitality and the diversity of our community. It was my honor, as some of you may know here, to serve as a Sylvania Township trustee and then as a Lucas County Commissioner. And in that role, I also served on the Lucas County Planning Commission. And I can tell you honestly, from my point of view, the hardest decisions that I ever had to make had to do with zoning and traffic, hands down. Very, very difficult. Because what you're asked to do in your capacity, and I know I'm telling you things you already know, but maybe some of the people here don't know, is you really have to balance the validity of a project with your foresight and your insight to try to predict how this is going to be, not just today, tomorrow, but 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, and it's really tough. So I appreciate that. I've emailed you all with my objections, and I hope you got that. In fact, I emailed you twice. I apologize about that. But I do have that available in print if you would like to see it. My husband Charlie and I are opposed to a conditional use permit for this property, and we urge you to reject this proposal for the following reasons. Whiteford Road is at capacity and cannot be widened without significant expense in the taking of private property. Mr. McHugh is correct. He referred to looking at evidence dispassionately. I was not surprised when at the Lucas County Plan Commission meeting on January 22nd, acting Lucas County Engineer Mike Panucci stated on the record that Whiteford Road is at capacity. That is evidence. That's from the Lucas County Engineer. He further stated that it would be extraordinarily expensive to be able to expand capacity at Whiteford because of the proximity of private property. There just isn't access. I'm not talking about what Mr. Orovitz mentioned with available right-of-way on this parcel. I'm talking further south. If you drive Whiteford Road, you can verify it. If you, like me, have to turn left when you're southbound to get into my neighborhood, you know that people who are impatient behind you drive into people's front yards in order to be able to do that. The concept of having to take private property, otherwise known as eminent domain, is frightening, in my opinion. But that is what the engineer testified to, both those things. It's at capacity. The engineer's office is very aware of the challenges of Whiteford Road. It was originally a rural road. It's still a two-lane road, and it's just been prohibitively expensive to address the traffic problems. As a gatherer of fact, I would suggest that those two issues are dispositive. You almost don't have to go any further. Whiteford can handle it. And when you listen to the testimony earlier with 60 to 80 employees, that's not 60 to 80 trips, that's maybe 160 trips with coming and going. not including Mr. McHugh's 8 times up and down Whiteford Road. And then you add all the other trips, and it's just, it may seem like an insignificant number, but it's still a number, and it's a lot of traffic. You're not limited, though, to only looking at the 5 requirements of the standards for conditional uses. You're also allowed to interpret them. And I think it's important to look at Section 2503 in the zoning resolution, General Standards for Conditional Uses. The Board of Zoning Appeals shall not approve a conditional use unless in each specific case it makes specific findings of fact directly based on the particular evidence presented to it that support conclusions that such use at the proposed location shall meet all of the following requirements. Mr. McHugh averred that this project does meet those requirements. I beg to differ. Number A, will be found to be consistent with the general objectives or with any specific objective or purpose of this zoning resolution. You need to interpret that. What does that mean, to be found to be consistent? Let's look at letter D. Will not involve uses, activities, processes, materials, equipment, and conditions that will be significantly detrimental to any person's property or the general welfare by reason of excessive production of traffic, noise, smoke, fumes, glare, we haven't talked about lighting, or odors. But it's not just the zoning resolution. There's also the land use plan, the 2018 land use plan that you have to consider. And it's also the neighbor's testimony, real-life experiences. That qualifies as evidence too. You can weigh that for the value you want to give it, but nonetheless, it's a real thing. So I would suggest that this is not consistent with the goal to have whatever development occurs be harmonious with the surrounding areas. That's the definition that you have to work with, for good or ill. Mr. Grouse said it's a simple transition from the highly commercial area of Monroe Street to the rest of Whiteford Road moving south. I would disagree with that characterization. I don't think it's a simple transition. This has been referred to as residential. But the title of this facility is a residential use facility. So you can focus on the word residential, or you can focus on the word facility. It's a big facility with a lot of residents, a lot of visitors, with service care providers, and it also flies in the face of the 2018 land use plan that identifies the area of concern regarding the Monroe-Whiteford intersection and flags commercial creep as a serious concern. The land use plan also makes another really interesting comment. Recommendations in the land use plan for this area recognize, quote, ample vacant commercial properties elsewhere in the township. I'd like to make a few other comments. It's not, if you want to view this as residential, it's not low-density residential. It's not even medium-density residential. And those are the 4 corners of the documents you have to work with. I'd also like to stop and talk about a senior care facility. And I do get a little bit choked up about this. My mother, who lived in Westchester Woods, moved just a few months ago to a senior care facility in Sylvania Township. And in that process, I had the painful duty as a daughter to look at all the facilities in Sylvania, and there are quite a few. The land use plan does refer to the aging population. Mr. McHugh talked about that. It's true, we're all getting older and there's a greater need for these facilities. But I want to talk about what's already here. Sunset Village. That's, if you're not familiar with it, it's way out Savannah-Metamora Avenue, totally different kind of street and kind of access than a narrow two-lane road like Whiteford is. Kingston. Kingston is on King Road, again, a totally different kind of street. The Charter Senior Living, that's on Sylvania Avenue, west of McCord. Sylvania Avenue is able to handle that traffic. And then finally, Oakleaf Village, which is just down the street on Holland, Sylvania. Holland, Sylvania is a 5-lane road, and that's where my mom is. I visit her frequently, and it is easier for me to make a left onto Holland, Sylvania than it is for me to make a left from my neighborhood onto Whiteford Road. I don't care what time of day it is. It's because Holland, Sylvania can handle the traffic. Whiteford really can't. There have been a lot of neighbors who talked eloquently about how this will change their neighborhoods. And I think that that's important to consider. I think it's part of the responsibility to do that, because when the zoning resolution and when the 2018 land use plan talks about harmonious use, that's what they mean, something that is in character. So I think it's incumbent to remember that yes, there will be people living there, but yes, it is a facility. It's not so much residential, although the residents who live there are hopefully as happy as it was indicated that they are. It is a facility with all the similar commercial kinds of activities that a facility brings. I would encourage you to reject this, but I would also encourage you to assist the applicant to find other properties, because there is a need for properties like this, for facilities like this. But Whiteford Road just can't handle it, particularly when the engineer says it's at capacity. We'd have to take private property to fix the road. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can I, we've been going for about 2 hours and 20 minutes now. I was wondering if I could make a motion for a brief recess for restrooms, things of that nature.
Yeah, you guys, I'm fine with that.
I'll second. Thank you.
Do you have to motions? What do you want, 10 minutes or?
5? Yeah.
All right, let's take 5 minutes. It is 7:20. I appreciate everybody's patience and everybody being respectful. I really appreciate that. Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and sign in and state your name and address.
I've already signed in.
You still need to, thank you.
Oh, do I?
No, you still have to state your name.
Jerry Komanek, 5125 Laredo, and I'd like to state that Laredo is a dead-end street with one way in, one way out, and that's Whiteford Road. There's one other street that's like that. It's north of me. It's Bainbridge. It has the same thing. One thing I'd like to speak to is the traffic study. If I remember right, when we were in front of the county, they said that the traffic study was done from 7 to 8 and 4 to 5 on October 20th. I know that's been changed, but now they're saying it was done from 8 to 9, 7 to 10, 11 to 2. But we haven't heard, maybe I missed it, but I haven't heard any numbers from that, from those times. Also, just to put out there, I know it's not scientific, but my wife from 5 to 6 o'clock tonight was counting cars, and she got 1,262 cars from 5 to 6 o'clock. Another thing I'd like to bring up is that it's just me thinking, but I'm wondering if eventually, if this goes in and they put intersection going into the property, if there will ever be a stoplight that will end up being in there, because we've got one in front of the school now, which for a long time there never was one. But I was wondering if that might happen. The other thing is, they've talked a lot, and I know, I mean, I'm in engineering, I know what it takes to do one of these studies and to make these plans out. And I can't see how many revisions there are on that drawing, but I'm sure there's quite a few. And it takes time and money, I know that. And, but one thing they have to understand is that everybody in this room has a lot of time and money invested in their properties too. And I think every one of us here, we're here because we feel that our property values are going to take a hit if this goes in. Don't know how much, but that's one of the things that we have to consider. The other thing is Christmas time, the traffic pretty much doubles from just before Thanksgiving to New Year's because of the mall and all the businesses along Monroe Street. I mean, trying to turn left from Monroe Street to Whiteford Road during that time is, you're not even going to do it. And the other thing is, if there's a problem on the E-way, then people start cutting through Whiteford Road to get to places instead of using the E-way. I guess that's all I got. Thank you for your time.
One quick question, if you don't mind. So where were you asking for the traffic light?
Well, they're going to have an intersection that's on Whiteford Road, right? So for an entrance into the facility.
Yep. So that's where you're asking for the...
No, I'm not asking.
You're asking if there's going to be one there then?
Correct.
So outside your entrance?
Pardon?
Outside your entrance?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to clarify.
Okay, all right. Thanks for your time.
I'm Richard Wolf, an attorney representing Glenn and Terry Swimmer, who reside at 4754 Whiteford Road, adjacent to just south of the development. I am with the law firm of Spengler Nathanson at 900 Adams Street, Toledo, Ohio, and I reside at 4715 Redwood Lane in Sylvania. I have some packets of information that might be helpful to refer to. I've got one from Mr. McHugh.
So I can just pass these down.
They just include the statement that was read at the Plan Commission meeting on behalf of the swimmers, a simple survey showing the location of their property, a rendering of a proposed barrier that I'll get into later between the property and the development, and then just a picture of showing the position, or a photo of the property where the fence is now between the swimmer's property and the proposal. There's been a lot of talk, good presentations on traffic, and I don't want to get too much into that. I haven't done a traffic study, but I was informed by Mr. Swimmer that it took him almost 5 minutes to turn left out of his driveway on Whiteford Road to get to this meeting today, so that's maybe not scientific, but some evidence. And I think it demonstrates the difficulty not only north and south on Whiteford, but going east and west across. The swimmers are opposed to the project on several grounds. In general, this is a high-density project being shoehorned into a residential area on a road that is already at capacity. Most senior living facilities in and around the township are built on wide-open spaces away from established residences or on corner lots with better access and on less congested roadways. As I've stated, the swimmer's home is immediately south of and adjacent to the proposed facility, and they will be directly and adversely affected by the project. The swimmers have occupied their home for 22 years, and they specifically chose the property for its serenity and privacy, as their home is set back quite a ways from Whiteford Road. The proximity and operation of the proposed facility will drive down the swimmer's property value. The proposed driveway for the Omni facility is only 30 feet from the swimmer's home and abuts the swimmer's living room, dining room, kitchen, and 2 bedrooms. This portion of the swimmer's property is currently buffered by trees and open space beyond the trees. This quiet setting will be upended by the proposed development. Due to the proximity of the Omni facility's service drive to the rooms in which the swimmers spend most of their time, the noise and vibration from service vehicles, trash removal vehicles, the beeping of trucks backing up, fumes from those vehicles, the customary flow of emergency vehicles inherent to the operation of the facility that we're out of here, that will enter and leave the property will adversely impact the swimmers and deprive them of their peaceful enjoyment of their property. The applicant's proposal converts a quiet, partially wooded area with green space into a busy, high-density institutional facility. It must be remembered that Omni is applying for conditional use, and Ms. Contrada did a great job, and took some of my material, by the way, in describing why we're opposed. Under Section 2501 of the zoning regulations, an application for conditional use must include a narrative statement evaluating the effects of the project on adjoining property, including such elements as noise, glare, odor, light, fumes, and vibration. The applicant seemed to gloss over this requirement in its narrative in its application and did not seriously address the adverse effects the project would have on the swimmers. Section 2503 of the zoning code, as Ms. Contrada stated, states that the Board of Zoning Appeals shall not approve a conditional use unless in each case it makes findings of fact directly based on evidence that supports conclusions that such use at the proposed location shall meet certain requirements, including just two that I will focus on. First, the conditional use will be harmonious with the existing or intended character of the general vicinity, and that such use will not change the essential character of the same area. Second, the conditional use will not involve uses, activities, processes, materials, equipment, and conditions of operation that will be significantly detrimental to any person's, and I underscore any, property or the general welfare by reason of excessive production of traffic, noise, smoke, fumes, glare, or odors. The conditional use requested by Omni fails to satisfy the requirements of Section 2503 and should not be approved because it is not harmonious with the existing character of Whiteford Rd between Sylvania Avenue and Monroe Street, and it involves uses, activities, and not helping my presentation. It involves uses, activities, equipment, and conditions of operation that will be significantly detrimental to the swimmers and their property. Simply stated, the proposed use of the property as an institutional care facility is not the best use of the property, and it is certainly not the right location for such a project. Omni should seek a more appropriate location. While I want to stress that it's the swimmers' desire that the conditional use be denied, in the event the board chooses to approve the conditional use, the swimmers would ask that the board make its approval subject to the following conditions. Number one, a revision of the applicant's plans to relocate the service drive away from the swimmer's home. Second, Omni's construction of an effective sound and visual barrier along the property line shared with the swimmers. The Lucas County Plan Commission approval calls for an 8-foot Trex fence, but this would be inadequate. A composite fence will not provide a sufficient sound barrier. The swimmer's home is on high ground and the ground slopes down towards the property Omni seeks to develop. The swimmers have consulted with a landscape architect, and we have a rendering of the barrier there, who recommends a stone block or concrete barrier to properly handle the noise, and a 10-foot fence that would be necessary for an adequate visual barrier. I realize that under the zoning regulations, 8 feet is about as high as you go, but we feel these are special circumstances which require a taller barrier. The barrier also needs to be up before any construction begins to protect the swimmer's privacy. We also would ask for the elimination of the land bank parking spaces on the south side of the property, which are close to the swimmer's property. There is more than sufficient parking for the proposed facility without these spaces. Should Omni want more spaces in the future, they should go through the normal application process and locate the spaces away from the swimmer's property. Finally, we ask for elimination or movement of the dumpsters on the south side of the property as required under the Plan Commission's approval. These dumpsters would create noise, odor, and loud traffic immediately adjacent to the swimmer's home. Again, I want to stress the swimmers are much opposed to this conditional use approval. We very much hope it is denied, but we did want to make sure that you are aware of the conditions under which we would feel any approval would have to be finally put through. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Stephen Metropoulos. I live at 5029 Summerfield Road. So the back of my yard will basically have to look at this building. I am understanding that they have bought or in planning to buy a house 2 doors down for, and they said at one meeting, an emergency exit onto our street. Our street probably has 70% cut-through traffic. I know eventually their people will say that needs to be open at all hours for us to get in and out, and it will increase the traffic on a small side street. Tremendous. Plus, unfortunate for me, 2018, I had a sewer backup when the engineer, on Christmas Eve morning, when the engineer got there, he found out it was a medical building that was built on the north side of Summerfield many years ago. And he said, we're going to mark this as a problem area because medical buildings like this, small ones, and nursing homes always tend to have backups because a lot of the people that work there don't care what they're flushing down. And when they actually got it to work, I seen the stuff coming out of that building, and it was disgusting. Everybody else's house was plain, regular water. A place like that, I'm just going to have more problems. Everybody around me is going to have more problems. Because he said, he goes, every building they've put in, nursing home, they end up getting called and they mark it and they have to check it. I believe every 3 months they are on our street checking our sewers to make sure they're clean and running. The traffic on Whiteford, everybody said, the left-hand turn lane sure will help turn into that building, but if I want to leave my street at 5:30, 7 to 5:30, I need people wanting to turn left into the homes south of me in order for me to get out. Otherwise, I'm there 10, 15 minutes. Because everybody uses our street instead of using the light, because the light is just backed up. It's ridiculous during the day. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sean Llewellyn. I live at 4134 Forest Lawn, just south on Whiteford of the proposed development. I had a couple things I wanted to bring up that don't echo every other concern that we've had so far. I am familiar with the seniors housing industry, and I appreciate what Mr. Finley and his company do. Having residents stay 3 to 5 years, the average across the industry is 2 years for assisted living community or assisted living residents. It's in the state of seniors housing. It can be referenced online. I just wanted to give that perspective in terms of the average across thousands of communities. The residents don't typically stay 3 to 5 years. They're more out in 2 years. So with that also, I would like to recommend to you guys on how better to communicate things like this to the community. If the law is within 200 feet of a proposed development, not exactly the best way to communicate. As an example, if some of Mr. Finley's potential residents are within a 5 to 10 mile radius, that's a perfect area to canvass the residents that live there already and ask for their input. Another thing, to echo Mrs. Contrada, the senior housing communities in the area already. Senior Star is on Central, another example of a facility on a much larger road that can handle traffic. And they have capacity too. So the addition of another facility may be needed in the future. The area that it's going to be needed in, Sylvania, Ottawa Hills, is a great area to look at because of housing values, but the surrounding area in which they're building in will potentially hurt housing values. Those people will no longer have the ability to even move in to the facility next door because of the rate and potential housing value loss. So I just wanted to make those couple points. I appreciate you guys hearing us out, and we'll look forward to the decision.
Good evening. I have some papers for you. You'll pass one down. My name is Jennifer Christianse. I've already signed in. Right now, I'm filling in for Jonathan Wynn, who lives at the corner of Saddle Creek and Whiteford. He is the head of our neighborhood association for Corey Meadows. Unfortunately, he had tickets to the Super Bowl last night, and so I'm representing him today. But before I want to read this, I'd like everyone from Corey Meadows who's here to please stand, because I am representing these lovely neighbors of mine. Thank you, and several have gone home as well. Thank you very much. This is Jonathan Wynn writing. I am writing on behalf of Corey Meadows Neighborhood Association located off Whiteford between Monroe Street and Sylvania Avenue. We're a group of about 100 homeowners that stand united in opposition toward Omni Properties Company's desire to build a large-scale nursing facility in the residential corridor of Whiteford Rd, Lucas County, Sylvania Township. We have the following objections to the proposed construction project. Number one, we've heard this before, the Whiteford Rd corridor is a residential corridor, not a commercial corridor. With the exception of an entrance to a small business complex located on the corner of Whiteford Road, Monroe Street, and the Whiteford Greenhouse located on Whiteford Road, there are no commercial properties located on the Whiteford Road corridor. The desired build site would be constructed in the middle of homes to the north, the south, the east, and the west. The property will share property lines with private homes and the Whiteford Elementary School. An amendment to the existing zoning would be inconsistent with the surrounding residential neighborhoods. And I might add, there are 3 schools on Whiteford Road, not just one. Number 2, the infrastructure along Whiteford Road is insufficient to accommodate a large commercial building. I have included aerial photos, which is what you have received, of each of the Omni Properties Company's build sites across northern Ohio. Excuse me, it's not coronavirus, I don't know what it is. It can clearly be seen that these facilities are built off of large 3 to 5 lane roads with multiple entrances and exits to the building site. The Westlake site has a 4-lane highway. The Akron site has businesses and big box stores. The Strongsville location is located on Royalton Road, a major 5-lane highway. The Stowe location, located on Hudson Road and Allen Road, are each 4-lane roads. The Hudson location is surrounded by a strip mall and large commercial properties. The Solon location is located adjacent to a mall. The Seven Hills location is on Rockside Road, the busiest road in Cleveland. Why were these locations chosen by Omni? They were rightly chosen because there is a proper infrastructure to accommodate a property of this size and stature. Whiteford Road is a 2-lane road that is not suited for the property of this size or function. Roads in our area that would be suited for a build of this size would include Monroe Street, Central Avenue, McCord, and not Whiteford Road. Whiteford Road is unable to be widened. As a result, a 3rd lane would need to be added, which would eliminate the shoulder along the corridor. This will move traffic closer to homes and will infringe on the sidewalks that children use to walk to school. Whiteford Road is heavily trafficked and is already being used beyond its peak usage. I was disappointed to hear that the traffic study provided by Omni was executed at the end of summer before school started. This has been corrected. As you're aware, this is among the slowest traffic time of the year. Studying traffic on school days should be a must in order to best understand the facilities. Number 3, the requested building site abuts Whiteford Elementary School. This property will share a property line with an elementary school in the Sylvania Public School System. As a result, students will be more susceptible to access by Omni Properties. There has been no outreach, as he wrote this,
To the Sylvania Public Schools, Interim Superintendent James Spurgeon, nor Whiteford Elementary School Principal Andrew Duncan. As a result, there has been no study on how this facility will impact the school, nor has a safety study been executed. Number 4, the requested building site will require more responsibility for Sylvania Township Fire Station Number 3. With the recent addition to 2 skilled nursing facilities in Sylvania and private ambulatory care companies' unwillingness to sign contracts with these facilities, the Sylvania Township Fire Station has been increased calls to address medical emergencies on these campuses. The adding of an additional skilled care nursing facility will increase the fire station's run rate. While these are the objections to the building, the skilled nursing care facility, the Neighborhood Association believes that keeping the zoning consistent with the surrounding area would be agreeable. This would allow for the future construction of a new single-family homes in a new subdivision. If the Sylvania Township Board of Zoning Appeals should continue to move forward with this build, despite lacking the support from surrounding neighborhoods, we would recommend that the board should proceed in good faith with the following research. 1, conduct a traffic study during the school year. 2, deploy a study to ensure any and all safety issues are addressed with Sylvania Public Schools and Whiteford Elementary School. 3, convene a study with the Fire Chief, Michael Ram, to understand implications. Thank you for your consideration. Jonathan Wynn, Corey Meadows, and the Neighborhood Association. My husband and I own 2 houses within Corey Meadows, so I feel entitled to a little more time. We pay about $1,000 a month in taxes on both of these. We've owned the houses for more than 20 years, so altogether we paid over $240,000 in taxes. Our children do not attend Sylvania schools. But why do people move to Sylvania and Sylvania Township? Quality of life and schools. Recently in the Blade, there was a survey about 3 suburbs listed as top places in Ohio to raise family. Maumee and Monclova beat out Sylvania. 2 of the criteria were education and safety. I feel the zoning committee is willing to sacrifice the biggest draw of our community for the lure of tax dollars. Is it really important to sacrifice the safety and quality of life of your taxpayers for the profit of an out-of-town corporation? Will Omni receive any tax abatement from this behemoth project? I ask, will they receive any tax abatement?
We do not know where zoning, that would be a trustee question.
This is a heavy burden to inflict on our backs. It's a knifing. Would you want us all to move to Monclova? Is that why you're trying to drive us out? It's a hard one. Reed Sample, a 14-year-old boy that lived on my street, Coldstream, was killed while crossing Whiteford in 2008. It was bad then. It is worse now. It will be much worse should Omni be allowed to barge into our lives. Our neighborhood will become a cut-through. The proposed exit for this 150-plus bed behemoth feeds right into our little neighborhood. If the light is red on Monroe Street or the school's letting out on Whiteford, guess what? Anybody in a hurry is going to cross the road and zoom through our little neighborhood, which has no sidewalks. It would be a swift escape, and people looking for a swift escape are not respectful of the neighbors. It will mean the destruction of a lovely treed and grass property as well. Omni proposes to cut down many of the majority of those trees. They will pave paradise and put up a parking lot. I come from the country of Brazil. Every time the Amazon rainforest cuts a few trees, the whole world complains and they say, oh, that is the lungs of the world. Well, they're proposing to cut down the lungs of Sylvania, ripping down a whole ton of trees there. I will hear the buzzsaws, and it will sadden us greatly. We have sewage and water issues as well. Last Wednesday night, when my husband was out of town, after 11 o'clock, lo and behold, I heard someone digging in my front lawn. I flew to the window, threw up the sash, and yelled at the man out there digging in my front lawn. Was he burying a body? Was he looking for treasure? No, it was an above-freezing night, and the water main on our street broke. Things are precarious now. Imagine if 150 additional toilets and sinks are added to an already fragile system. Lastly, I sadly had to place my aged parents in a nursing home facility. When I looked for a 5-mile circle around our house, there were dozens. As had been stated before, Lakes of Sylvania, Sunset Retirement, Oakland Village, Kingston, Gerlich Center, Rosary Care Facility, Park Skilled, Franciscan Care Center, Ursula Center, Charter Senior Living, Our Lady of Grace Hall, and the list goes on and on. Yes, they are needed. Yes, I visit my mother almost every other day, but do we really want to become the Florida of the North in Sylvania? I think not. For these reasons and so many others, I am joining my fine neighbors in affirming not on Whiteford Road. We are voters, and we have very long memories. Thank you.
Hi, Joey Hogan. I spoke earlier. One of the things I noticed in the 2018 Sylvania Township Land Use Plan was, in addition to discussing the aging population, there was also discussion about the need for young families to move into the area and the lack of housing opportunities for them in the area. I am older, but I still fall into the category that they were doing, and I moved back to this area 2 years ago after spending some time in San Diego and Chicago, some time in Europe. I wanted to live home back here in the Sylvania area. It's where I'm from, and what attracts me is the low density of the area. It's a very communal feeling. I don't want to live in a high-density area, and as was discussed before, I will move. If, the conditions that I want to live in are no longer present, I'll leave. It doesn't matter to me. Basically I'll find what I want somewhere. But after going down to the Planning Commission meeting, some of the comments made about the legalities of what is permissible to do with the land and what's not, I thought I'd go just look at some things that we've talked about, Article 25, and it seems like the legality is like the minimum threshold. Like, the I's have to be dotted, the T's crossed, but that's not the whole of the decision. It's not, is this thing legal to do, and if it is, we have to grant it. The neighborhood doesn't want it. Pete Gherkin at the meeting summed it up. His statements were, and they're available online. You can listen to the meeting there. Basically, his summation was the neighborhood doesn't want it. It was clear to him there, and it's true. So I think that, based on what we've heard there and heard tonight, that's clear. The legality issue of it, is, I guess, for you guys to decide, and then to weigh that against the desires of the Sylvania Township residents. When I looked through the zoning resolution and looked at the Sylvania Township Land Use Plan, there were some questions that I had about this. In particular, if we look at the map up there, the independent living facilities, they were described as villas. When I looked through the zoning resolution list of definitions, I could not find a villa defined. I did see some articles online for other recent building projects that describe villa-style housing. These seem to range from small, detached, single-family units, up to, I'm assuming what we have here, which looks like townhouses with apartment buildings in them. It looks like a townhouse with 4 apartments in each of those units along the east side of the property. And that's just not consistent with the, what do we have here, the A4 or the, I have to look up my, refer to my documents again, but this A4 rural residential, it is for low-density residential development. One of the permitted uses, the conditional uses, is for a residential care facility, but I don't know that that means that you can just ignore the rest of it. That you can say, well, this is a residential care facility, so the rest of the purpose of this zone where residential doesn't matter, that because it's a residential care facility, we can make it high density despite the zone being designated for low density. I can't imagine those buildings, the townhouses or villas, being approved in a low residential area. If you look at the Sylvania land use currently, in the area that I would describe as, what was it, from the land use plan, the Sylvania Quarry, or the Quarry Whiteford area. If you look at that currently, there's commercial development along Monroe Street, as you know, but the rest of that area, there are two small pockets of medium density housing. One is some condos that, similar in size, that look like 4-unit condos in Quarry Cove along Monroe Street. And there's a small little section of small apartments, 4-unit apartments along Sylvania Avenue. That's it. The rest of it is single-family residential. So this facility, based on what I'm seeing in the area from, what is described in the land use plan for the Quarry Whiteford area, it's all single-family residential. This does not fit in that area based on what we have now. What was mentioned earlier is the abundance of available commercial real estate that's empty, which I believe you cannot have a conditional use permit on for a residential care facility. But I believe there is precedent for a facility on Sylvania Avenue west of McCord where zoning was changed from commercial to agricultural in order to permit a conditional use permit for another facility that should have recently opened. So there is precedent if you want to look, for another location within Sylvania Township. Zones have changed before. The other thing is, when we look at Article 25, we've mentioned before the general standards for conditional use. I don't know that I would agree, with that this facility meets all of those. I'm a layman, so I don't understand all of this necessarily, but when I read E, we'll have vehicular approaches to the property that shall be so designated as not to create interference with existing traffic on surrounding public streets or roads. And I consider an entrance to this facility directly across from the entrance to the Corey Meadows neighborhood on Saddle Creek Road. You've heard before from other people in the area who've discussed the difficulty in entering Whiteford Road. From my personal experience living over there, I avoid it. It's a boulevard coming out of there, and there are many times where I've pulled up, forgotten what time of day it is, and it's like, U-turn, go through the neighborhood. I can't imagine what it'd be like if I'm exiting my neighborhood, trying to turn north onto Whiteford Road, and instead of having to watch traffic moving south and north, I have to watch traffic moving south, moving north, people trying to turn left off of Whiteford Road into my neighborhood, into the facility, negotiate people across the way, exiting the facility, to try to determine, do I have enough time and do I have the opportunity to exit my neighborhood? From my perspective, the access on Whiteford Road certainly interferes with the current traffic and the existing traffic on surrounding public streets or roads. It's just going to make it much more complex to try to get out. I would argue it would be more prone to accidents. And if we look at the Sylvania Land Use Plan, under planning issues and areas of concern, I had mentioned earlier the commercial development pressure along Sylvania Avenue and Monroe Street, and then the second bullet point there is already traffic safety improvements on Whiteford Road. Sylvania Township knows that this road is not safe in its current state, and adding traffic, we can debate how much it would be, if it's a minimal increase or maximum increase, but there are already safety concerns on Whiteford Road. It's already difficult to access Whiteford Road from the residential neighborhoods, and adding to that It just doesn't seem like a wise decision. As for the traffic report itself, as has been mentioned, we don't have access to it. I've not been able to get a copy of it, or I have not gotten a copy of it. So when I did my studies for my PhD, I minored in research and measurement, basically. And so I can understand how we can take measurements and understand the conditions today. But if we're going to project what is the impact going to be, if we're thinking about this, I also did some studies in systems design for sort of modeling complex systems and things like that. Those numbers have to be based on something. So there has to be something as far as how many people do we assume are going to be coming in and out of work to kind of make that impact. And I just like to know, or I'm curious, and you guys might want to find out, what are those based on? We know based on the, I don't know if testimony is the right word, but the statements that were made at the Planning Commission report that the residents here don't drive, there'll be minimal impact on traffic, or a minimal increase in traffic. I don't know, I may be wrong, but I'm going to assume that those estimates of minimal impact are what are used in the projections for the traffic study. Driving as a whole is a complex system. As you've heard, we have thousands of people an hour driving down the road. Each of those individual people are going to be making decisions about what's their best route, what is best for them. And while, as I said, we can measure currently what the state is, we know it's at capacity, we know there are safety issues on Whiteford Road, to project forward and to determine what are going to be the outcomes of putting such a facility with the number of residents and the number of workers, visitors and that. We just don't know, and we don't know how people are going to respond to that. We just know that there is going to be more traffic in an already unsafe area. Trying to think if there was anything else I wanted to say. Yeah, I guess the other thing, kind of following up on what was said a couple times related to other possible uses for this facility. Down at the Planning Commission, it was stated by the applicant many times, hey, this is going to be better than what you're going to get from, a high-density residential area, sort of count your blessings that it's us and not, a more dense, subdivision or something like that going in. I just don't think that that's consistent with what we've seen in the area. As I said before, according to the future land use plan, there is a stated lack of housing for young families. There's also a report from, let's see, what was this one? This was the 2018 annual report to citizens from Sylvania Township, in which it states that one of the best categories of desirability is that indicates that this is a good place to live, is the number of permit applicants for single-family housing. And these, according to this, there's sort of an unofficial goal to hit 100 permits. And it states that goal was reached in 2016, fell back to 93 in 2017. But last year that goal was hardly noticed when it was passed in October. The office ended last year with having issued a total of 123 permits for the construction of single-family homes. And we've seen in our area, I believe it's Corey Manor, I believe is a street off of Corey. I think there was some rezoning maybe done. It was a planned unit development now, where some single-family homes were built in the area. I couldn't find any documentation on why it was a planned unit development, other than when I was looking at the auditor's site, there were some surrounding areas that looked like they were being maybe preserved for woods, things like that. This is something that I think we've seen in the area, and that I think would be attractive for people and for developers to put in low-density, very nice homes for people to come in, move into, which would be consistent with the current zoning and the current character of of the area, this Whiteford area that Savina Township has sort of defined for their land use plans. The other thing when I was looking around on the auditor's website, I don't know if this means anything, but I was kind of curious, like when this property was purchased or acquired, because I know that there were people in our neighborhood who were interested in it for building, a single-family home on it. So I couldn't find records of this property being transferred since 2004. I couldn't find any properties on Summerfield Rd being transferred. I would assume that there may be a deal in place for if the conditional use permit is granted, that they would purchase these properties. But I'm concerned about Summerfield Rd, if there's a requirement for a secondary exit, whose lot is it? And how does that affect the neighbors? Some of the things as far as having a minimal impact or a not negative impact on the adjoining properties. When you consider the residents on Summerfield, as I stated earlier, the future land use plan is already moving, or is already designating the area north of Summerfield Road for future commercial uses. So to the north of them in the future will be commercial. To the south of them, potentially this facility. And then for some neighbors to, their east or west is a driveway, an access road. So this facility just by itself is taking, two sides of a yard, turning it into a parking lot and a driveway. I don't see how that could not be an adverse effect on the comfortable use of their property. I feel like there was something else I wanted to say, and I can't remember what it is, so I'll just call it a day. So, thanks.
Hey, maybe I'll say it for you. Bob Cook is my name. I signed in. I've been 26 or 27 years at 4817 Skelly Road, which is at the juncture of Sour Creek and Skelly Road. And I want you to thank Carol Contrada for doing half of my presentation, because that'll save you even some more time. And the gentleman over here who honest to God, this is February 3rd, 4th? 3rd? Okay, and what's it also known as? Super Bowl Monday. So, a lot of people aren't at work today. Yet, between 5 and 6 o'clock tonight, she counted 1,200 cars. That's a lot. 1,200 cars on Whiteford on a day that people are supposed to be staying home. The one thing that I haven't heard much of here is some of the things that happened at the Lucas County Planning Commission, and they recommended approval. And they had 3 reasons, and that's what I'm going to talk about. The first one is the request is compatible with surrounding residential and commercial uses and zoning. Well, that's interesting, because if I read this is your stuff, this is Article 6, 600 purpose. The purpose of A4 rural residential district is to provide areas for low-density residential development. Okay? Which may or may not have public water and sanitary sewer, lots of public water, et cetera, et cetera. That was the important part. The important part is what's your definition of low-density residential? This is right out of the Savina Township Land Use Plan. I didn't make these up. This is what it says. Single-family and low, medium density residential, single-family and related uses, schools, churches, parks, etc., permitted or conditional. Density generally ranges from 1 unit per acre to 6 units per acre. Well, there's 10 acres here. So wouldn't that mean it's between 10 units and 16 units? No. Here, we have 161 units. How is this compatible in the 10 acres? 161 units, potential occupancy of, roughly 300 people there, plus the staff of 60 to 80. That's like having 80
four-family, two-story homes in an area that can only support 22 to 25 single-family homes. So they're asking quite a lot. Conditional use that would have, 16 units per acre as opposed to maximum of 6? Zoning said that the second reason for going along with this, these are a lot of bogus things too, because I couldn't believe, we went through a lot down there and they came away with a 4 to 6 finding for this thing. Request meets or exceeds the requirements of the Summerfield Township zoning resolution. Well, gosh, that's not true. No matter what you want to say, you can write it down, you can dress it up, but it's still a pig. Okay? Page 63. Again, is the same thing I just went through. Low, medium density. That's 1 unit to 6 units per acre, and they want 16 in there. The third reason they felt is the conditional use does not anticipate to adversely impact neighborhood properties. From what we've heard today and tonight and past, traffic alone would do that. And Whiteford Rd can't be enlarged. I mean, that's one thing he's mentioned down at the Lucas County Planning Commission is they can't make it any wider than it is. So it's going to affect it adversely. But then I want to read the last thing. And this is, again, right out of the Summerfield Township Land Use Plan. And this has to do with it says here, land use and zoning recommendations. Consideration was given to changing the future land use designation for the residential parcels along the section of Sylvania Avenue between Meriwether, which is west of Talmadge Road, and Whiteford Road to potentially allow more intense land use. However, given the established and predominantly well-maintained condition of this residential corridor, the considerable buffering that would be required for adjacent residential areas and the existence of ample vacant commercial properties elsewhere in the township, it was decided to instead retain the low, medium density residential designation for this area. I didn't write this, you guys did, or you agreed to it. Why do you want to change it? Thank you.
Hi, Jared Komanek, 5125 Laredo. I spoke earlier. I just wanted to clarify, I made a misstatement. I said my wife from 5 to 6 got 1,262 cars. It was actually 1,362 cars. I just wanted to clarify.
Reeves Northrop, 5163 Kearsdale Road, Toledo. First of all, I want to start out, if anybody needs a great lawyer in here, I mean a fantastic lawyer, like one of the best, Sylvania, Toledo, your boy's right here, he's in the house, John McHugh. Not sure these guys hired him by accident or on purpose, but they've got the best, I can tell you that. I've been in my house since '94, and I have no problem with business coming in to Sylvania Township. I'm all for it. I think it's great, but Whiteford Rd, really? Seriously? That's not the place. And, you know, we've looked at, talked about the old Andersons. Why not Secor Road? The old Sears? That whole place is open. You got St. Anne's right down the road for a hospital. ProMedica's about two miles away. So if you have any problems with loader people, or even the younger people. You can get there pretty quick. I actually never heard about this project until after into phase 2, which I believe phase 1 was 225, 200 and some rooms, and they've cut it back down. And that's why I heard about it. And that was about maybe not quite a year ago. First time I heard about the ice cream shop, although I do love ice cream. So, but that's the first time I heard about that. 60, 80 more cars coming in that, looking at doctor's appointments, visitors, garbage trucks, service vehicles. I know we've heard all on this. Fast food, people coming in, delivering fast food to these people. And I just want to tell you, since ProMedica went up, I do a lot of biking, jogging, and down Quarry Road, down Whiteford. And since ProMedica went in, I would say the traffic has tenfold more cars going down Quarry Road since that. And I'm all for, like I said, I'm all for growth, especially in Sylvania. Okay? Going down Whiteford Road at 5, get off work 5:30, 6:30, going down Whiteford Road, you can be guaranteed that there will be people using that bike lane because they don't want to wait for people to turn left and go down into their, into the homes and in their neighborhoods. I've seen it. I've almost been hit because it got, and I had a, so I get it. Kids trying to walk to school, you're going to put up, and I don't know where this lane's going to be, but it's not going to be just used to exit and go into that facility. It's going to be used as a speed lane to blow off as many people as you can until you're in front of everybody and back onto the 2-lane or 1-lane road. I mean, someone's going to get killed. I can tell you that. There's no doubt about that. Especially with lanes and opening up. People already go to the right. When people are turning into, Turnbridge, people go around. I see it all the time. I'm not going to harp on the turn onto Whiteford from Monroe Street. I go down, it's 2 or 3 lights. I'll go down to Skelly, take a left. That's my neighborhood, so I go into it. There's always 1 or 2 cars coming in, and they take a left, they go on to Skelly, take a left on Coldstream, wrap it around, and go out Turnbridge. I watch it. Been there. Seen it. It's just going to get worse. 2017, October 4th, 2017, we had a house fire at 3:30 in the morning. Our house was pretty much demolished. Thank God for this gentleman back here. He has a great crew and got over and saved, part of the house, and we rebuilt the whole thing. If I would have known that this was going to be coming in, we never would have rebuilt. We would have moved. Amy and I would have moved with Yvonne. We would have left the neighborhood. So I just want to let you guys know, we rebuilt, but if we knew that this was going to be a facility going in like this, most likely we would not have been Sylvania Township residents at this time. That's it, and I hope you make the right decision. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Rita Smithers. I signed in earlier. 4420 Ancona Drive, which is between Valencia and Cartagena off Whiteford. So I daily deal with trying to turn left or right, getting past, trying to turn into my driveway. Traffic is the number one concern I have, and I think that's been addressed by everyone. But I do have a couple of questions. The traffic studies that were referenced earlier were done between 11 and 2 and 3 and 6. I think you had said school lets out at 3. Whiteford is a nightmare from 2:30 to 3. So I can't see that that would be an accurate representation of traffic.
The representation on Angel 7 to 10 a.m.
Well, we can have you come back up, that's...
No, I'm just saying it should be representative at the busiest time, and 2 to 3 was not in your window, and that is the busiest time. I cannot turn right onto Whiteford after 2:30 p.m. The second question I have, and I was hoping Keith Limes, the assistant superintendent for Sylvania, would still be here, but what does the school district think of this? Have they given any input into whether they want this property right next to the school and what that will do to the traffic and the busing, pedestrians, kids' safety? Does anyone know the answer to that question?
No, you can address the board, but we don't have these answers for you.
So I'm just saying someone should get their input, because that school is right there, and safety of the students has to be number one, traffic has to be number two, and residents' concerns, we deserve a voice, and I think you've heard it. So, thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Bob Hayes, and I live at 4824 Skelly Road. I just wanted to point out one thing that I don't think has been mentioned. My whole career was in the construction area. I was not a builder, but I sold, for a manufacturer, I sold construction materials. I want to tell you that a project like this is probably going to take about 2 years to build. There on Whiteford Road for 2 years, you are going to have trucks up and down that road carrying sheetrock, roofing materials, brick into ground after it rains that is muddy as the dickens. And it's going to be a mess. It is going to be a real mess. I'll tell you what, this is not an easy thing when you're going to have all of this construction going on for that period of time. That's all I want to say. I want you to know what we're up against. Because when those trucks are up and down, and there's all our regular traffic, neighborhood traffic, all the other traffic that goes through there, we're going to have a nightmare on our hands. It's not like they're building a house in Corey Meadows, one house, which they can get built maybe in 9 months, and there are houses being built in there now, in that area. But this is a major, major project. This is like actually building 160 houses. So know what we're up against. It's going to be a nightmare, believe me.
Thank you. If we could have John or the applicant come up, I do have a couple other questions. Do you mind? Sure. I don't know if you guys have any other questions. Just a couple from some notes that we had through here. Well, first of all, just addressing the latest one, what timeframe do you think that it'll take to build this? I mean, I know it's gonna be next time, just like roughly.
18 to 24 months of construction time. We'll start, like to start in 6 to 9 months would be the anticipated start time, depending on, we're at the mercy of approvals, permits, and all those sort of things, so.
Great, thank you. Do you guys own this property now?
We do not. We have an option.
And probably the other point of clarification was the study, I mean, your times were, you had some things to say, so I'll let you say it on the record.
I did, and I wanted to confirm with one gentleman who came up and talked about the traffic count. Some of our traffic count did show numbers as high as 1,500. But I would like to dispute William's time comments. But thank you.
Was that definition as well?
Yeah, no, yes, it probably was. The times we were looking at were a Tuesday and a Wednesday. And to the extent that I misstated it in reading it, I apologize. The counts were taken from 7 till 10 a.m., 11 to 2 p.m., and 3 to 6 p.m., except that the counts were taken at school driveways from 2 to 3 p.m. Okay? Now, what I'd like to at least make sure that the board understands is that it is difficult to predict the use, so we relied upon Institute of Transportation Engineers studies, which estimate the number of vehicles that come from assisting living facilities throughout the country. And looking at those numbers, that's where the assessment came in, that it would be a very minimal effect on the increase. It's late, so I hate to say that it was suggested that it was less than a 2% increase in use, but that's what it was. So, I understand there is a lot of emotion, there's a lot of passion about it, but this is why we did it, so we wouldn't be relying simply upon opinions. And this is why it was presented to the staffs, both your staff and the Plan Commission staffs, so that we would have expertise to look at this, because they review these on all occasions. I'll answer any other questions that
Do you guys have any others?
Thank you very much for your attention to all of us tonight.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this matter?
My name is Lynn Cook. I live at 4817 Skelly Road. I'm signing. I think I basically just want to say one thing to you gentlemen. You've heard a lot this evening. You're tired, I understand that. But I think it's extremely important for each and every one of you to consider how you would feel in this situation if someone came in and decided to plop down in the middle of your residential neighborhood a commercial facility. You can say it any way you want, but it's a commercial facility. And what we're looking at here in this room are people who want to maintain the integrity of our residential facility, of our residential homes, of our school, of our kids, of our families, our pets, everything. You really need to consider that very strongly. This may be important tax-wise, it might be important money-wise, but sometimes other things are more important than the dollar.
Okay, is there anybody else? Sure.
sorry, Troy Hickman. I happen to remember what I was going to say earlier. And it's kind of...
Name for the record?
Yes, it's Troy Hickman. That's okay. I hope you're listening now, though. I was just joking. So yeah, my thoughts were down the road. Someone had mentioned the sort of the precedent setting of this, and how that can be used in the future for other decisions around zoning or conditional use. As someone who is new to the area, and while if it doesn't mean my needs, I believe I'm hoping to stay. I love where I live, and I love the neighborhood as everyone else does. And what I'm concerned about is the density of people living in here and their impact on future decisions that are going to be made. We have a population here that's elderly, some of them with memory care. I'm assuming that they'll have some other medical needs that will not be made at this facility, and I'm assuming that they would like to have easy access to those who can't drive. And so I'm just curious about what will happen in the adjoining properties once, Summerfield gets squeezed potentially by this facility and commercial properties coming from the north off of Monroe Street, and there's a desire to kind of consolidate that. I've done consulting in the medical industry before, and I know that, if there's a population here with a need, maybe there's a surgical center or something like that, someone will want to build it. I don't know if the lots on Summerfield are accommodating for that or not. But if we have 150 or 160 residents here who determine that they have medical needs that could be met by a facility on Summerfield Road, and 150 of them show up here, that's that's equivalent roughly to what we have in the neighborhood. Just the dynamics of demand and pressure that could be put on the zoning board and the township itself to meet the needs of these people in their immediate area. I just fear a sprawl of medical complexes built next to this, either on Summerfield Road, on Monroe Street, further up on Whiteford Rd, that once this is here, once there's a demand, those people will petition, I want to be able to have my surgical center next door, or potentially, we want more villas or independent living on Summerfield Road that can then transition into our facility. So just the precedent that this does and the dynamics of that density of people with a specific need or that fit a specific demographic to be able to sort of counterbalance everything that you've heard from the surrounding area is something that's troubling to me down the line when they want to have additional needs met. And we don't have, enough people to sort of counter their demands and what that can do to change the character of the neighborhood as it is now. So, thank you.
I was debating whether I should come up here and say anything or not. James Crosby, 4500 block of Westbourne. And I like to swear, so I swear until all my stuff is true and correct. I'm not an attorney, and so I do have to do this. I noticed the attorneys don't, either because it doesn't apply or they are expected to.
That's
Yes.
Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give is the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, it is. Just two things. I know it's been a long time. Real quick, when I looked at the township zoning regulations, there are only two classifications that are permitted uses for residential care facilities. I'll remind you of, they're both a C1 and a C2. Every other residential classification, residential care units are in a conditional use. If they were pursuing there, and I understand this is the way it's written, there's no real definition of what a residential care facility is. But I did notice that in pursuing under the PUD regulations of the zoning that residential density for an R5, which is our highest residential use, is at 21 point something. And also with the residential use pursuing under PUD classification, it requires no more than a 40% covering of the property with buildings and driveways and such. And if it was a commercial application of a PUD designation, at most of the property, 60% of it could be under roof, under concrete, and it also requires a 40-foot grass yard area around the entire perimeter of the facility. So those just, effectively, you have a property here that is actually zoned A4, seeking a conditional use, but effectively, it's going to be made with approval, a C1 or C2 classification, which are the only classifications that allow for a permitted use of residential care facility without conditional use application. So those are the only points. It seems, I can't guesstimate how much is under cover, how much is under road, but it certainly seems to be significant. And I'm not asking for an answer. That's for the board to decide based upon evidence, and that's the only reason I'm here, just to enter this into evidence. I did attend the Lucas County Planning Commission, and Mr. Meehu, I appreciate you preemptively entering those questions that were brought up there on your initial presentation to this board. So, thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you. All right. At this time, if there's no further input, we will recess into deliberative session to discuss this. 8:44.
Motion to recess the conditional use for a residential care facility within an A4 district for the properties located at 4828 and 4752 Whiteford Road, parcel number 78-17721 and 78-17744, until our meeting on March 9th, 2020.
Second. Any discussion? Obviously, this is a tough decision, and we're making sure we're doing everything legally correct and procedurally correct, so we'll reconvene. All public matter is over with, and we'll come back with a decision on March 9th then. Call for the roll. Is that okay, John?
Mr. Levine?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Schlechter?
Yes.
Mr. Lamana?
Yes.
Mr. Mercer?
Yes. Motion to adjourn?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
That means that is... Mr. Mercer?
Yes.
Mr. Lamana?
Yes.
Mr. Schlechter?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Levine?
Yes.
What I do is just usually put up, I usually just fill them up, like, something that, this one was good to look at.
Yeah, you want all the time?